Could it be yet another misperception? Although Huang Yueli felt that something was not right, but there wasn't anything suspicious around, so she could only conclude that she was overly suspicious and left the scripture depository. By now, it was already midnight and the academy was extremely quiet. The pathway towards the scripture depository had always been serene. Tall palm trees lined up on both sides of the path, forming a forest, and in addition to the fact that the number of students who came by to exchange for manuscripts were originally very few, so this road had always been rather isolated. Huang Yueli walked alone on the pathway as her mind kept replaying the scenario which she had seen in the scripture depository earlier. Bai Liu Feng had already been extremely cautious when he hid the item in the 4th level of the scripture depository. The number of people who could enter that place were already not many. Furthermore, most students who entered would have their attention focused on selecting the manuscripts, so it was not possible for them to discover a hidden mechanism. So the person who took the item away should have gone prepared, aiming the item in the hidden compartment. The scripture depository security was tight and only those with honorary points were allowed to enter, so suspects who fell into that category were in fact very little. Huang Yueli seemed to have thought of something as she frowned slightly. But just at this moment, she suddenly felt a cold intent coming from her back. Huang Yueli's reaction was swift as she immediately turned aside and shot towards one corner. At this moment, a long sword had silently landed on the position which she was standing at earlier and a sliver ray flashed, quick as lightning. A black-robed man stuck out his sword but had landed onto empty space as he couldn't help but made a hum sound. But his reaction was quick as he hurriedly chased after the direction which Huang Yueli had ran in, striking out move after move. After Huang Yueli had avoided the first move, she didn't even have time to turn around and look. Instead, she immediately rolled on the ground and rolled right into the forest. Her reaction was extremely swift, and when she was rolling into the grass, she had already seen clearly the surrounding topography, throwing out concealed weapons to disrupt the sense of hearing as she rolled towards the back of a huge tree. The night had gradually turned dark, and in the depths of the forest, it seemed even more serene and dusky. The black-robed man was not prepared and had been hit directly by an incoming thunder flame ball. His herd had instantly caught fire. Following that, there were attacks from concealed weapons continuously. He was caught unawares and was struck by various types of profound armament. Damn it, this wretched lass, why does she have so many profound armaments? The black-robed man was so angry that he went into a stomping fit as he was in a flurry to pat off the flames on his beard and clothes. Even though there was a moment of confusion, but his ability was absolutely outstanding, so the 5th-tiered profound armaments which Huang Yueli had weren't able to cause him any fatal weaknesses. The black-robed man quickly put out the flames, but he had lost all traces of Huang Yueli's whereabouts. A large grass patch in the forest were fuming with black smoke, and in combination to the dusky light ray, it made it impossible to see the situation in the forest. Black-robed man struck out several times towards the direction of the rising black smoke, but none of it had managed to hit his target. After the black smoke had dispersed, the forest regained its usual quietness, not giving out any single sound. The expression on the black-robed man's face changed as he had not expected that at such a close distance, Huang Yueli was still able to react and in the nick of time, managed to evade and avoid his ultimate move. Furthermore, she was able to remain composed and used all her ways to disrupt his judgment to escape in time. At this moment, Huang Yueli, who had escaped this calamity, was leaning against the back of a huge tree as her heart was pounding wildly. You can also listen on. She really had not expected that there would be anyone who dared to kill in Celestial Light Academy. Furthermore, the assassinator's strength was extremely strong and his cultivation had far surpassed hers, at least practitioner who was a 7th stage realm or above. This was not an opponent whom she could possibly win. Luckily, she had faintly sensed that something was not right when she was leaving the scripture depository and had kept an eye on the surroundings, enabling her to sense the opponent's movements. The assassin had not expected her to have such senses and had momentarily underestimated her, thus giving her the chance to escape. 7th stage realm. With this kind of cultivation, even if it were in Sky Cloud City, which was full of strong practitioners, he was considered as an outstanding top exponent. Such a top exponent actually wanted to kill a 3rd stage realm lass like her? Moreover, taking the risk to strike in Celestial Light Academy, Why on earth was this so? Huang Yueli had a faint guess in her mind. This definitely had something to do with the item which Bai Liu Feng left behind for her. Otherwise, it was not possible for her to be targeted the minute she left the scripture depository. As for that person who attempted to assassinate her, there was a possibility that he was the one who took away Bai Liu Feng's remnant. Who was this person? Huang Yueli wanted very much to sneak a peek at this person, to see what he looked like, but she managed to hold it in. A top 7th stage realm expert, she couldn't even take one full-bloomed blow. Even if she used up all the profound armaments on her, she would not be able to deal with any fatal damage to this 7th stage realm practitioner. If she were to expose her whereabouts, then she would definitely be awaiting death. Now the priority was to retain her life, and as for the truth, it could be investigated later on. Black-robed man could not find Huang Yueli but did not leave immediately. Instead he held his long sword and walked to and fro around the surroundings of the forest, searching for Huang Yueli's whereabouts. Bai Ruoli, come out now. Do you think that by hiding in the forest, I'd not be able to find you? I advise you to show yourself. I have a few questions to ask you, and if you answer me honestly, I will not make things difficult for you. Otherwise, the black-robed man's sinister and hoarse voice reverberated through the forest. Huang Yueli was stunned, feeling that this voice sounded familiar as though she had heard it somewhere before, but she couldn't figure out who it was. At such a tense situation, she was in no state of mind to think carefully on where she heard this voice before. All right, it seems that you'd not shed tears until you see the coffin, just you wait. The black-robed man sneered, not making another sound. Momentarily, only the rustling sound made by the black-robed man walking within the forest could be heard in the quiet and serene forest. Huang Yueli quickly held her breath, and controlling the profound energy within her, she tried her best to lower her existence. With her strong primordial spirit, her senses on the surroundings were stronger by 3 times more than ordinary 3rd stage realm practitioners. The black-robed man did not conceal his own whereabouts, so she could still feel it distinctly that the black-robed man was walking around nearby. Furthermore, this black-robed man apparently had rich experience in searching. The method he used was a carpet search, carefully searching every single area, bit by bit, not giving any chance to leave out any suspicious hiding spots. Huang Yueli heard the surrounding movements, and her forehead creased immediately. The distance between the black-robed man and her was getting closer and closer, and if this continued, according to his concentrated search, it would not be any longer before she was found. If there wasn't any huge disparity in their cultivation levels, then she could still use the advantage she had in her body motions to move away quietly. But now that the black-robed man's cultivation was so much higher than hers, no matter how good her body movements were, it was impossible to move without leaving any flaws. You can also listen on. The black-robed man's footsteps were getting nearer and nearer, and he had already walked to the back of the tall tree which Huang Yueli was hiding, on seeing that he was about to turn around. Huang Yueli had no other choice as her right hand suddenly waved. The black-robed man was originally looking around, searching thoroughly, and he had already searched a huge portion of the forest. He was just left with a little part before he could complete his search, and there weren't many hiding places which Huang Yueli could hide any further. A victorious smile had formed on the black-robed man's lips, just waiting to catch this sly lass alive. That wretched lass dared to burn his beard, which he had been proudly taking care of, and even tricked him. So when she finally fell into his hands, he would absolutely not let her off easily. Just as the black-robed man was thinking of ways to torture Huang Yueli, suddenly he felt something fly past his head. Following that, a few dollops of semi-wet things fell on top of his head, and there was even some liquid which flowed downwards from his hair all the way dripping onto his face. What is this? The black-robed man subconsciously stretched out his hand to touch, and on taking a close look, he went into a blank, but following that, he suddenly changed color, showing displeasure. The sticky, murky, brown-colored dollop on his hand gave out a strange stinky smell. Wasn't that bird *T? The black-robed man was so disgusted that he almost threw up as the gastric juices continued to rise. He couldn't help but vomit. He had finally managed to suppress the disgusting feeling as he raised his head to take a look and saw a golden red-colored bird speedily flying away towards the eastern direction. The black-robed man immediately reacted. Damn you, It's this bird which actually dared to *T on the top of my head. I'll put your feathers out one by one to make it into a shuttlecock." He stretched out his hand and a burst of profound energy shot out. That little bird nimbly avoided it and even made a chirping cry. "How dare you ridicule me? Stupid bird, wait till you fall into my hands, I will roast you." The black-robed man finally couldn't tolerate it any further as he chased after it. The golden-red-colored little bird was little Wang Cai. Earlier Huang Yueli knew that she had nowhere else to hide and could only release him out. Little Phoenix had grown a little larger recently and the intensity of his flame had grown stronger than before, but it was still not possible to go against a 7th stage realm practitioner. So under dire circumstances, Huang Yueli thought of a move to deal him with tremendous damage, and that was for little Wang Cai to *T on that black-robed man's head. Little Wang Cai had originally heard that there was a 7th stage realm top exponent and was a little apprehensive, not daring to come out, but upon hearing that he could *T on his head, he was so excited that he couldn't wait but flew out almost immediately. He flew over the black-robed man's head and spread his legs and accurately released his ammunition. Moreover, as he was picky about his food, he had loose stools recently, so it wasn't just disgustingly wet, the smell was also horrible. Seeing the black-robed man's face turned from red to black, then from black to white and finally from white to green, little Phoenix was extremely delighted. He almost couldn't help but chirped. Seeing his accurately pile of *T without a single inch of deviation, it was indeed the work of an extraordinary phoenix which could do that. However, before he had finished being complacent with himself, the black-robed man regained his senses and the burst of profound energy had narrowly brushed past its tail feathers. Little Phoenix went into a state of panic as it hurriedly flapped its wings and used all its might to escape. It was a natural spiritual beast and its speed was naturally very fast, but a 7th stage realm practitioner's speed wasn't something to dismiss as well. Following closely right behind it, little Phoenix not only didn't manage to shake the black-robed man off, in fact the distance between the both of them were decreasing. You can also listen on. Little Phoenix used all its might to flap its wings, increasing its speed, and further increasing it. But there was a limit to its physical strength as it started to feel tired slowly. At this point of time, it started to feel a bit remorseful. Why did it have to eat so many chicken drumsticks usually? This fat tummy of its was really heavy and had seriously affected its flying speed. "Don't run, you lousy bird, still dare to escape? Still dare to ridicule me?" Little Phoenix was full of tears. Its chirping was not ridiculing the black-robed man but was moaning. Flying was very tiring and it was going to tire the bird out. "I shall see where can you escape to." The distance between the man and Phoenix were closing in and it was barely just half a meter's distance as the black-robed man stretched out his hand, trying to strangulate Wang Cai directly. But at this moment, little Phoenix's tummy suddenly had a feeling as it couldn't help but tremble. "Caught you. Damn it, what is this?" The black-robed man stretched out his hand and grabbed fiercely, but he wasn't able to catch any feathers, but instead, he grabbed hold of a pile of soft, warm, disgusting. He had been struck once again and finally could not hold it in any further as he squatted on the ground and started throwing up. This time round, little Phoenix had learnt its lesson and did not stay behind to admire his work. It flapped its wings and hurriedly flew away to escape. Just as the black-robed man and little Wang Cai were in the middle of tussling, Huang Yueli tried her utmost best to lighten her footsteps and moved secretly towards the boundary of the forest. She didn't choose to head back towards her own courtyard but moved towards the direction of the scripture depository. As there were few people here, if she were to leave the forest rashly, under the situation where she had no protection, she would have revealed her whereabouts entirely to the black-robed man's vision and on the contrary had given the black-robed man a chance to make a move on her. So her only choice was to get closer to the scripture depository because there were quite a number of top exponents from Celestial Light Sect who were stationed at the scripture depository. Perhaps the black-robed man would be deterred by this and gave up the idea to pursue her. By now, Huang Yueli had confidence about this because if the black-robed man dared to kill her under the eyes of those top exponents stationed there, then he couldn't have followed her secretly till she left the scripture depository before making a move. Although her plan wasn't too bad, but unfortunately her luck wasn't that good. Just as she had already reached the boundary of the forest, The black-robed man suddenly regained his senses. Damn it, I almost forgot about the official matters because of that damn bird's interruption. He had pursued after Wang Cai for some time but was unable to catch hold of it, so he could only swallow this down and turned around to continue searching for Huang Yueli. Wang Cai saw that he stopped his pursuit and intentionally lured him, hoping the black-robed man would continue to chase after it. But he waited for quite some time and there didn't seem to have any movements from his tummy, so lacking the valuable golden thing, the black-robed man wasn't hooked, and that made little Phoenix at its wit's end. Huang Yueli silently thought it was such a pity, but as there wasn't any other thing which they could do, she could only remain composed and once again concealed herself while waiting for the next opportunity. Black-robed man searched an entire round and realized that Huang Yueli had already shifted as he cursed out. By Ruoli, aren't you being arrogant and wild just because Li Moying stood out for you? How is it that you only know how to hide now? Do you think that hiding would be of any use? If you have the capability, then don't come out forever, otherwise, I will eventually catch you. The sky was turning darker and Huang Yueli maintained her cool, directing the Shalonian breathing skill which allowed her breathing and fluctuations of her profound energy to be lowered to the minimum. So unless he saw her hiding her with his own eyes, otherwise just based on his senses and feeling, it was practically impossible to discover that a living human was right here. You can also listen on. The black-robed man surveyed the forest several rounds but returned without any achievements. The forest was once again restored to its dead-like quietness. Even though there wasn't any sound, but Huang Yueli was pretty sure that the black-robed man had not given up and he was still in the forest, changing his stance from proactive to passive while waiting for the prey to appear by itself. She must find an opportunity to leave this place. Right now she was merely waiting for the night to dim so that she could avoid the black-robed man's search. By the time dawn broke, there would be no way for her to hide. Just as Huang Yueli was racking her brains, suddenly some voices were heard from not too far away. Earlier I was too engrossed in the manual which I was reading in the scripture depository and had forgotten the time. The sky is not young anymore. Oh dear, now we have to walk the night street. Everyone be careful, this forest is full of little birds and if you're not attentive enough, your head will be filled with bird-*t. Haha, junior brother, have you forgotten? I belong to fire attribute. I only need a small fireball technique to light up the pathway, so there's no need to worry. Huang Yueli suddenly realized that the situation was disadvantageous for her. But before she could make any moves, the passing students had already used their fireball technique to light up their torches and instantly, the forest surroundings were lit up brightly. Huang Yueli was just hiding in this portion of the forest because she had used the moment where little Phoenix had messed up the momentum to move herself to the boundary of the forest. So the light cast from the torches had revealed her whereabouts, leaving her with no place to hide. Besides that, some students cried out in surprise. Hey, look over there quickly, is there someone in the forest? Why hide in the forest in the middle of the night? Before the student could complete their words, Huang Yueli had already felt a burst of murderous intent approaching her fast. She tipped her toes and flew swiftly into the forest. But it was all too late. The black-robed man had already locked in her position and aimed his attack towards her precisely. Huang Yueli threw out various profound armaments, hoping to use this as a cover-up to get away. But the black-robed man had prepared himself this round and avoided most of the profound armaments, going after her in hot pursuit. Heavens, what's going on? Someone is making a move in the academy. Doesn't that figure who is escaping looks familiar? Could it be someone we know? Shall we go up and lend a hand? The few students had the heart to help, but as Huang Yueli and the black-robed man's speed was simply too fast, adding on to the fact that they were only ordinary second and third stage realm practitioners, so they couldn't keep up at all. At this moment, at the main entrance of Celestial Light Academy, young sect master, you're finally back. I've been looking for you for the entire day. Mo Yi and the rest mentioned that you are busy and refused to bring me to go look for you, sigh. Jiang Tuxin followed behind Li Moying, shouting anxiously. Li Moying had been busy with his matters for an entire day, and the minute he returned to Celestial Light Academy, his only wish was to hurry back to his little fox's residence and have dinner with her, followed by cultivating and sleeping together. Although they only chatted under the same blanket and not do any bad things, but there were still chances where he could steal a kiss or something like that. Li Moying was filled with beautiful thoughts in his mind but had been stopped by Jiang Tuxin, and it was imaginable on why his mood suddenly worsened. He wanted to pretend that he didn't see Jiang Tuxin, but Jiang Tuxin kept chasing after him reluctantly, so he could only stop in his footsteps. You had better really have something urgent. Otherwise. Li Moying's brows raised slightly as his expression was grave and stern, but his tone was extremely sinister. Jiang Yusin gave a cold shiver but had no choice but to open his mouth. Young sect master, that sect master sent someone here. You can also listen on. Li Moying's expression became even more impatient when he heard that. Just this little thing? What matter is it of mine whether sect master has many people or not? My purpose in this trip is to loan an accommodation temporarily based on my personal status. Sect master's men, you can handle them yourself and need not ask me. Saying that, he turned around and walked away. Jiang Tuxin had already delayed him for so long for such a small matter when this time could originally be spent with Leah intimately. Young sect master, wait a minute. Jiang Tuxin chased up to him in haste. Young sect master, if other people were to come to Celestial Light Academy, I would definitely not dare to disturb you, but this person insists on meeting you, furthermore, insist on meeting me, then I must meet that person? Li Moying replied icily. No, Jiang Tuxin had not yet completed his words when a gentle voice butted into his conversation. Eldest senior brother, you don't even want to meet me? A purple-robed young lady walked over elegantly, her long dress hem swayed along with her graceful steps, rippling like flowing clouds. Accompanied with her almond eyes and peach cheeks, cloud-like black hair, she looked as though she had walked out from a painting. Any man who saw this peerless beauty would be uncontrollably attracted. However, Li Moying only casted her a cold glance, and not only did he not reveal any smile, he became even distant. Why are you here for? Murong Fei showed a hurt expression as she spoke in an aggrieved tone. Eldest senior brother, it had been close to 1 month since you left the sect for Skycloud City. Celestial Light Academy's cultivation conditions totally cannot be compared to the sect, and furthermore, there's no one to take care of your daily lifestyle. I'm worried. So I've came specially to look for you. Li Moying replied icily. What concern is it of yours on where or how I cultivate? This isn't a place where you should come, so go back to the sect right now. Murong Fei had not expected that she came over specially to look for her, but not only did Li Moying appeared unhappy to see her, on the contrary, he even set down a direct order to send her back. Furthermore, his words were said right in front of Jiang Tuxin, totally not giving her any face in front of outsiders. Even if Li Moying and her weren't linked romantically, but just based on the fact that she was the sect master's daughter, Li Moying shouldn't treat her in this manner, right? They were childhood friends. The more Murong Fei thought, the angrier she got, and she couldn't help but recall the rumor which she heard about previously. That little slut who had seduced eldest senior brother in South Yu Kingdom was also at Celestial Light Academy. Furthermore, she had already fooled around with eldest senior brother, even claiming that she's Li Moying's fiancé. Looked like the rumor wasn't false. That little slut had even hooked eldest senior brother's soul away. This was why eldest senior brother treated her so coldly. Murong Fei couldn't wait to chop Huang Yueli up into thousands of pieces to let her know what the consequences of fighting for a man with her were. But now in front of Li Moying, she had to bear with this, pretending to have an able and virtuous look. Eldest senior brother, don't chase me away. I can take good care of you while I'm here. I brought you many pills and medicinal herbs this round, and I can personally prepare medicinal cuisine for you. I'm saying this for the last time, go back to the sect immediately. Don't stay here and be an eyesore. Otherwise I'd personally get someone to tie you up and send you back. Li Moying had already lost his patience, and after saying that, he turned around and left. Eldest senior brother, where are you going? Murong Fei wanted to chase up to him, but Li Moying's speed was extremely fast, and with a flash, he couldn't be seen anymore. You can also listen on. Murong Fei looked at Li Moying's departing figure as she stomped her feet hard, biting her lips. Jiang Tuxin wiped the sweat on his forehead as he said in a low voice, Eldest young miss, the day is no longer young and I've arranged your accommodation. Although it cannot be compared with the sect, But that location is filled with the most abundant spiritual chi. Do you want to take a look at it? Additionally, I've also arranged a welcoming dinner at our academy's assembly hall for you. You're so irritating. Our sect gives you so much money. Is it for you to arrange banquets? You can't even settle a small matter properly. Murong Fei replied him with an angry stare. Jiang Tuxin lowered his head speechless as he felt extremely melancholic inside his heart. Young sect master's luck with the ladies was a little too prosperous. Moreover, this attitude was just too severe. Murong Fei was, after all, the sect master's eldest daughter, an 8th-grade talented lady. So many large sect successors chased after her, but she had to take interest only in young sect master, even coming personally to Celestial Light Academy so that she could stay by the young sect master's side. The result was young sect master didn't even bother to look her straight in the eye. He even left her here alone, so no wonder Murong Fei was so angry to the point of going mad. It's just too bad for those subordinates who were stuck in between. Murong Fei suddenly turned her head around and said, Principal Jiang, I recall that I had warned you previously to expel by Ruoli that wretched slut, and to be clear on whom you should serve your loyalty to. In the end, you made me very disappointed. Jiang Tuxin lowered his head, avoiding her stern gaze. Eldest young miss, you should also understand my situation. Miss Bai and young sect master are always seen together, so where would I find the guts to go against young sect master's commands? Moreover, I had already explained previously that Miss Bai's innate talent is outstanding and is a rare find, which you probably don't know about it, right? Miss Bai had just successfully obtained the qualifications for a first-tier armament master in the Armament Master Certification Assessment yesterday. What did you say? Murong Fei's face changed color as her mouth opened wide in shock. Hearing that Jiang Tuxin said Bai Ruoli and Li Moying were inseparable, she subconsciously clenched her hands into a fist, so jealous that she could go mad. The position beside eldest senior brother. That belonged to her. What rights did that little slut had to dare to hang on to eldest senior brother? But following that, she heard the atomic bomb which Jiang Tuxin threw out. That wretched lass had actually became an armament master? Where in heavens would there be such a ridiculous thing? She had long heard about others talking about Huang Yueli's innate talent and knew that she was the most outstanding student whom Celestial Light Academy had recruited in the past few decades. But Murong Fei self-admitted that her innate talent was also extremely outstanding, so naturally she wouldn't bother about a countryside lass, and she didn't think that she could surpass her. But now, she actually became an armament master? A 14-year-old armament master, no matter if it was in the continent center's soaring heavens continent, she would be a genius whom various major powerhouses wanted to recruit. Moreover, her innate talent in cultivation wasn't bad at all. This wretched lass. On what basis did she have? Why had she taken all the advantages? Murong Fei stared fiercely at Jiang Tuxin. Are you telling the truth? Bai Ruoli really knows how to refine armaments. Or did she make stuff up? That's not possible. She's from the countryside South Yu Kingdom, so how could she possibly refine armaments? Who did she learn it from? Jiang Tuxin looked at her sinister expression as he sighed secretly in his heart. No matter how talented and good-looking a lady was, the minute she was entangled by affairs of the heart, her appearance would become malevolent. You can also listen on. Even Murong Fei, this kind of talented lady who had outstanding innate talent and looks, were not spared. Unfortunately, no matter how she insisted, or how she schemed, it probably wasn't of much use at all. Anyone who had seen how the both of them got along with each other would know how clear Li Moying's feelings towards Huang Yueli was, and there wasn't any space for Murong Fei to even put a foot into. Jiang Tuxin felt sympathetic for her, so when he spoke, his tone brought about slight remonstrance. Eldest young miss, what kind of place is the Armament Guild? President who had personally presided over the certification assessment, so what tricks could Bai Ruoli possibly play? Her armament refining innate talent is extremely shocking, and there were so many students who had witnessed it personally, so she had no way to play any trick. Furthermore, it was rumored that Bai Ruoli has an exceptionally powerful master, and seemed to be some big shot in the Armament Guild headquarters. Eldest young miss, why not just get over it? After all, there's so many young talents under the skies. Shut up. Murong Fei stopped him sternly. I don't need you to bother about my affairs. So what if she's an armament master? What is her background? A countryside bumpkin and even dare to claim connections with eldest senior brother, this kind of large sect successor? Why doesn't she just weigh her own self? It's so laughable. Jiang Tuxin pursed his lips, not knowing how to continue from her words. Based on Huang Yueli's innate talent, it was an easy feat for any large sect to take her in as a direct disciple. As soon as her news got out, the entire South Sky region's large sects would probably come snatching for her when they heard the news. In soaring heaven's continents, as long as you have the ability, one's status could be raised easily. It was obvious that she and Li Moying were very compatible, but only Murong Fei twisted words and forced logic on others to belittle her. But Murong Fei wasn't waiting for him to reconcile with her, as she immediately added on, "Where is that little slut staying right now? Tell me and I'll go look for her. I want to see for myself what she is capable of, and how does she even have the guts to seduce eldest senior brother?" Jiang Tuxin was even more embarrassed as sweat kept forming on his forehead. How would he dared to betray Huang Yueli? If this was spread to Li Moying's ears, he probably wouldn't be able to see the next day's sun, but this eldest young Miss Murong was rather hard to handle. Murong Fei continued to pressurize him. Why? You dare to ignore my orders? Quickly talk. Eldest young miss, this. It's not that I don't want to tell you. But Miss Bai is just staying next to young sect master. If you just ran over like this and anger young sect master, then the one to get into trouble would be you. He found an excuse to dismiss her. Murong Fei was fuming when she heard that. What? They are staying next to each other? Good, very good. Bai Ruoli, just you wait and see. Murong Fei gritted her teeth and finally left in anger. Jiang Tuxin, however, was feeling apprehensive. From her demeanor, Murong Fei would definitely find trouble with Miss Bai, so the academy would probably be in a state of unrest recently. After Li Moying got rid of Murong Fei, he hurriedly returned to the courtyard which Huang Yueli was staying in. He did not expect the courtyard to be so dark, without a lighted lamp at all. Leah, I'm back, what are you doing? Li Moying pushed open her courtyard door and walked in to discover that the room was empty, with no one inside. He couldn't help but frown. Huang Yueli didn't like to have any social interactions with people she didn't know well, so every day she would leave to settle her own matters. By noontime, she would normally have returned to her courtyard to cultivate or refine armaments and never took part in the various gatherings that Celestial Light Academy conducted. You can also listen on. So every time Li Moying returned at night, he would be able to see Huang Yueli. This was the first time that he didn't see her. Furthermore, Li Moying had returned rather late today. Usually by this time, they would already have dinner. Where did this young lass go to? Why wasn't she back at such a late timing? Not knowing why, an ominous feeling arose in Li Moying's heart. Although he was very clear that Huang Yueli's innate talent was outstanding, adding on to the fact that she was also black-bellied yet smart, and had a character which didn't allow her to be taken advantage of. Every time she went out, it would be good if she didn't bully others. When would there be a time when others dared to bully her? But his concern was thrown into disorder. After all, she was his little fiancée, and since she went missing, it made him extremely frustrated. Worse of all was usually he would let Mo Yi follow Huang Yueli, but today Mo Yi was sent to handle an important errand and it was just for a day and Huang Yueli had disappeared. He simply couldn't stop himself from thinking too much. Just as he was feeling restless and prepared to leave to find her, he suddenly heard footsteps at her doorstep. Li Moying revealed a pleasantly surprised expression and not waiting for the party to knock, he had already rushed to the door to open it. Leah, you're finally back. Who are you? His words abruptly stopped because the one standing at the door wasn't Huang Yueli. Li. Senior brother Li? The young lady at the door spoke in a tongue-tied manner as he looked at the man who had appeared in the room. This. Li Moying looked frustratedly at the love-struck idiot standing in front of her. Since he was young, he simply had to face too many women who drooled at him. He frowned in disapproval. Why are you in a blank? Who are you? Here to look for Leah. The young lady was scared stiff by his cold and discerning sight when she got back to her senses. I'm called Su Qingyu, I'm here to look for junior sister Bai. I made some tri-colored crystal dumplings and this is one of the specialty snacks from the south border, so I was thinking that junior sister Bai might miss our hometown taste, so I brought some for her. Su Qingyu was originally stuttering, but towards the end, she got a lot smoother in her speech. Standing in front of Li Moying was simply too pressurizing. Although this was a rare chance to be able to look at senior brother Li's handsome as celestial being's face, but senior brother Li's power field was too overbearing, which made her not even daring to lift up her head, not to mention looking at him in close-up view. Li Moying heard what she said and lowered his head to discover that Su Qingyu was really holding on to a plate of tri-colored crystal dumplings. It was exquisitely made and it was tantalizing. His expression warmed up slightly as he received the plate and left it on the table. I thank you on behalf of Leah. She's not back yet. Do you have any idea where she went to? Su Qingyu was stunned. Hasn't she gone to the scripture depository to exchange for manuscript? How could she possibly not be back after such a long time? Could it be that she is too engrossed in selecting a manuscript? She's gone to the scripture depository? Li Moying's eyebrows rose. I met junior sister Bai this morning and that's what she told me. I even invited her over to my place for dinner tonight and she accepted but didn't turn up, so I came over to send her these crystal dumplings. It's so late already, the scripture depository should be closed by now, isn't it? She's still not back yet. Li Moying listened with a cold face and immediately his forehead creased into a knot. Thank you for telling me these. The uneasy feeling in his heart grew even more obvious, feeling that something major was about to happen. Li Moying anxiously left a word and immediately flashed swiftly towards the direction of the scripture depository. You can also listen on. In the forest, Huang Yueli rose the profound energy within her body to the maximum and ran for her life. At the same time, she threw out various profound weapons which she had refined, and all sorts of explosive sounds could be heard continuously, stopping the black-robed man in his footstep. But the black-robed man's cultivation was that high, so even if he had been struck by quite a number of concealed weapons, but his speed was still astonishing and the distance between the both of them shortened, and very soon, it was merely a few meters difference. By Ruoli, you still want to hide? I'll see where you can escape to. The black-robed man sneered. Huang Yueli replied, all right then, I shall not escape any further. What? The black-robed man didn't manage to react in time, as Huang Yueli had abruptly turned around and in her hand was an icy cold long sword. The sword blade was wrapped with a layer of maroon-colored flame and she struck out, aiming for the black-robed man's chest. This move of hers was extremely swift, and furthermore, she had used an exclusive profound skill which she relied on in her past life to become famous, Daimon Seal. Although the black-robed man was able to react just in time and managed to retreat immediately, but the long sword still brushed past his chest. A black-red flame in the dark night drew out a ray of firelight, and although it just barely scratched past his chest, a burning meat smell filled the air. The black-robed man only felt a sharp pain on his chest and almost groaned. It took quite a while before he felt the pain easing off a little, but he felt a slight anesthetic feeling at the injured position. Apparently the muscles at that area had all been necrotized. Without a few months, it would probably be difficult to recover fully. The black-robed man sweated profusely, thinking that it was lucky for him to have reacted in time and retreated swiftly. This was just a slight abrasion on the surface. Otherwise he might have been injured even more seriously, and what if the long sword had pierced right through his body? Huang Yueli could only took to her heels when she saw him evaded her attack successfully, as she thought to herself what a waste it was. Although she might be able to cause serious injury to the black-robed man if she had rushed over to strike once more, but with her current cultivation, she could only use the Daimon Seal once, and it had already used up close to 80% of her profound energy. So it was not possible for her to extend the same powerful move again. On the contrary, if she were to choose to go near him now, it would highly possibly result in fatality. So her only choice was to escape. The fury in the black-robed man's heart was raised to the max after he had been stabbed. He had originally thought that with his 7th stage realm cultivation level, assassinating a 3rd stage realm junior was a slight effort, and no matter how heaven-defying innate talent Huang Yueli had, after all, she was still young. In terms of cultivation or hands-on battle experience, She would definitely be way below him, so doing away with her was just a small matter which could be done anytime. But the result was that he had turned into a total mess. Not only was he plopped with a headful of bird-tea, he was even injured now. Till now, the pain in his chest was still hurting faintly and he had no place to wash off that head of *tty smell, as the disgusting smell kept revolving around his sense of smell. Baruoli, you're looking for death. The black-robed man gritted his teeth as he went after her in hot pursuit. Furthermore, his fury had aggravated his potential, making his speed go up by several notches. Huang Yueli had been dodging left and right but was futile as that black-robed man managed to chase up to her, stopped her in her tracks right in front of a huge tree. How is it? Didn't you want to run away? Don't you have a lot of tricks up your sleeve? The result now? You've still fallen into my clutches. The black-robed man fled. Huang Yueli smiled and replied innocently, then who asked you to chase after me? If you didn't chase after me, then I definitely wouldn't run. The black-robed man sneered, still acting tough. Still thinking of other means to escape. I'm telling you, the minute you've fallen into my clutches, your wings are clipped, so don't even think about escaping. You can also listen on. Saying that, he took a piece of swarthy chain as he clasped it onto Huang Yueli's wrists. Huang Yueli lowered her head and instantly felt she was in a bad situation right now. This chain wasn't unfamiliar to her. It was a 6th-tiered profound armament called 8 Astro Intertwined Chain. This chain was specially used to restrain those practitioners whose cultivation levels were very high, and it was impossible to use brute profound energy to tear it apart. On the contrary, the stronger one's profound energy was, the tighter it would get. The minute one had been chained, it was practically impossible to rely on oneself to get out of this. Do you know what this thing is? The black-robed man asked. Huang Yueli gave a cold laugh. I say, this. Uncle, you really think too highly of me. The 8 Astro Intertwined Chain is a very expensive thing. As compared to ordinary 6th-tier profound armaments, it is much pricier, and generally it's used to chain up practitioners of 7th stage realm and above. I'm merely in 3rd stage realm, so using this, isn't it a waste? You're really South Sky region's most talented armament master. Your knowledge is indeed wide to even know about such a high-leveled profound armament. Oh, you flattered me. Huang Yueli sounded modest, but in her mind, her thoughts were flying past quickly. She had passed the armament master certification only yesterday, and this man already knew about it. Surely news hadn't gotten out so quickly. Stop playing dumb with me. Since you know this is the 8 Astro Intertwined Chain, then you should know very clearly that there is no chance for you to escape from my clutch today. The reason for me to throw in so much money naturally is to service you well. I wonder if your baby skin and little arms and legs will be able to withstand. The black-robed man made out a strange laughter and kept looking at her from top to bottom. That sinister glare made one shiver from within. Huang Yueli blinked her eyes, and not only did she not show that extremely terrified look which the black-robed man had expected, she actually laughed out. Straightforward people like us don't resort to insinuations. You've expended so much effort in catching me alive, isn't it just because there are things which you want to know from me? We all know it clearly, so why employ these scare tactics for? The black-robed man sneered. How do you know that I have things to ask you? He, I'm catching you alive just to torture you properly, so don't think too much. Huang Yueli replied indifferently. Really? Then. The matter that happened 11 years ago, you don't want to know about it? You. The black-robed man's expression suddenly changed. What do you know? What do you know? He suddenly got agitated and pounced towards Huang Yueli, using his hand to drip her neck as his fingers closed in tightly. Huang Yueli felt her breathing became more and more difficult and the color on her face slowly turned green. But she still replied while coughing, cough cough, earlier I opened the secret compartment. You chased after me soon after. Apparently. You wish to know about the secret compartment matter. The black-robed man heard what she said and abruptly let her go. By Ruoli, you're very smart. You're indeed by Liufeng's daughter. But smart people may not necessarily have long lives. If you wish to live for a few more years, then you'd better answer all my questions honestly today. Otherwise, his tone was filled with threat. Huang Yueli had finally regained freedom as she gasped heavily for fresh air and simultaneously started thinking of ways to deal with him. This black-robed man was heartless and cruel, and his ability wasn't ordinary at all. He had even brought out the 8 astro-intertwined chain, so today's matter would probably be very difficult to deal with. Could it be that today would be her final ending? You can also listen on. By now, Huang Yueli started to regret her actions. It was all because of her negligence that today's matter happened, all because she only wanted to understand the puzzle which Bia Liufeng had left behind. But she never expected that while the mantis was stalking the cicada, it was unaware of the oriole behind. If she had knew this earlier, she should be able to prepare herself beforehand for this. The black-robed man saw her not saying a word and abruptly pinched her delicate chin as he raised it upwards with force. My words, have you heard it clearly? Speak. Heard it clearly, Huang Yueli coughed as she spoke, but, the things you want to ask, really, too long ago. I was only 3 years old then, and at such a small age, I can't remember it at all. There's also so many things which I cannot remember. The black-robed man sneered when he heard that. Don't even think of stalling for time. Since you can't remember, then I'll bring you back and think about it slowly. Saying that, he struck out a hand gesture and the 8 astro-intertwined chain automatically tightened itself, bundling Huang Yueli into a dumpling shape. Huang Yueli subconsciously struggled and immediately felt that the chain became even tighter, restraining her chest area, rendering her unable to breathe. She secretly bled in her mind. The reason for her to say that was indeed to stall for time, but this black-robed man was very cunning and didn't fall for her trick. Looks like getting off the hook wasn't going to be an easy task. The black-robed man bundled her securely and tugged at the chain, attempting to drag her away. Huang Yueli staggered and didn't manage to hold her footing as she fell towards the front. She was just about to fall face down onto the ground, with a mouthful of mud. She instinctively shut her eyes, not wanting to face the reality of having a swollen face from the fall. However, just as she was about to hit the ground, her waist was suddenly caught hold of, which prevented her from her falling position. Following that, her back leaned against a warm and strong-built body. What was going on? Huang Yueli had yet to react when she heard the black-robed man crying out in shock. It's you. You have a lot of guts to dare touch my people. The familiar deep voice rang beside her ear. Huang Yueli unbelievably turned her head around and saw Li Moying's distinct protruded, perfectly sculpted handsome face, as though it was plastered next to her cheek, but locked on her waist was his firm and strong arm. You! Li Moying! Hearing the young lady in his embrace making a sound, Li Moying's palm, which was holding on to her slender waist, grew even tighter, but didn't turn around to look at her. At this point of time, his face was filled with frost and his handsome features looked extremely cool and stern as his profound energy around him uncontrollably penetrated out of his body, unveiling the berserk fury that this man was feeling in his inner her. The instant the black-robed man saw Li Moying, he resolutely made a decision. He immediately turned around and used his fastest speed to escape. A cold bitter glare shone from Li Moying's right hand as the amethyst lightsword was unsheathed. Thunder attributed profound energy in the forest charged insanely towards his sword vanguard, and when his long sword shook out, a blinding thunder streak shot towards the direction of the black-robed man. The black-robed man displayed his footwork in an attempt to evade, but he was too late as the thunder streak struck his back, giving off a terrifying explosive sound. Pain filled his entire body and his organs seemed to be completely shattered, so he couldn't bear it any further and shrieked out in pain. Li Moying's foot shifted and, taking the opportunity while the black-robed man's speed had dropped, he chased after him. Under the intense excruciating pain, he forcefully controlled himself and conjured up his strongest move as he turned around and struck. This target of this move was not Li Moying, but rather it was aimed at Huang Yueli, who was in his embrace. You can also listen on. Li Moying's expression suddenly changed. A 7th stage realm practitioner's strongest strike was not a joking matter. The surrounding air turned extremely scorching hot and the few tall trees nearest to them had been affected by the energy waves as those trees were uprooted instantly. As the black-robed man's target, the pressure that Huang Yueli had to take on was much stronger than that by 10 times. Her soul trace was much stronger than most ordinary practitioners, and at the first instance, She had already seen clearly the black-robed man's attack direction and method. But her cultivation level was just too low, and even if she knew how to ward off his attack, but she didn't have the ability to make it happen as her body's reaction could not match up to her thoughts. What was worst of all was that she was now bounded entirely by the 8 astro-intertwined chain and was totally immobile, so she could only watch on as the killer move got closer and closer to her. Li Moying's reaction was much faster. He used one hand to hold on to Huang Yueli's slender waist, and turning to one side, he held her behind his body while the robes of his sleeve threw outwards as his profound energy was unleashed. The two profound energies clashed in mid-air and gave out an earth-shattering explosive sound, making the entire ground trembling vigorously. Sand and stone, branches, and leaves swirled around in mid-air swiftly as the profound energies clashed against each other, giving off a violent airflow. The violent wind worked upwards, making one unable to stand properly, not even to open their eyes. Huang Yueli subconsciously lowered her head onto Li Moying's chest, and he conveniently tightened his grip, protecting her in his embrace. After a while, the violent wind subsided. Huang Yueli regained her senses to discover that she had actually acted like a weak young lady, throwing herself into a man's embrace, seeking for protection. Moreover, this man's chest was actually so warm, so strong, making her feel extremely safe and unwilling to leave it. This thinking was way too dangerous. Huang Yueli realized what she was thinking about as her face flushed red. The alarms in her heart rang and she hurriedly struggled for a moment, attempting to leave the man's embrace. Li Moying noticed her movements, and his strong and powerful arms remained at her waist, not allowing her to retreat. At the same time, he lowered his head to look at her, asking her with concern, "Leah, are you all right? Are you hurt anywhere?" The two of them seemed to have completely stuck to each other as the perfectly silhouetted face got closer and the scorching man's breath blew onto her delicate little face, as his deep magnetic voice rang beside her ear. Huang Yueli's face grew even hotter and she bit her lips as she said in a low voice, "No, nothing, I'm all right, and I'm not injured. How about you?" Li Moying shook his head. "Just based on that clown, he doesn't have the capability to hurt me. Only, this fellow is just too crafty. He actually attacked you to confuse my vision, then took the opportunity to escape. Damn it." Unable to capture him alive, his expression looked slightly off. He actually allowed the scum who had bullied his Leah to escape from beneath his eyes. This was simply his largest stain of his entire life. Huang Yueli replied, "No matter, I'm already very fortunate that you came and saved me. If it wasn't for your timely entrance, I would have probably gotten into huge trouble today. Although you're not able to capture him on the spot, but this black-robed man was able to enter the scripture depository freely, then it meant that he must be hiding somewhere in Celestial Light Academy, so there would definitely be a chance to meet him again." Li Moying's expression grew even darker. Of course he knew this reasoning, so all the more he was vexed at not being able to capture that person on the spot. If there was this kind of fellow with murderous intent towards Huang Yueli hiding in the academy, then didn't that meant that his Leah would constantly be in danger? You can also listen on. Moreover, Huang Yueli usually didn't like anyone following her around and often diverted his shadow guards away to act independently. Facing this kind of dangerous situation, there wasn't much chances for her to defend herself. Suddenly, Li Moying thought of a critical question. The scripture depository was a place in the entire Celestial Light Academy which had the highest security. His little thing had just made a trip to the scripture depository and actually had someone pursuing her life. This was just too abnormal, and apparently, this little thing must have done some special stuff which made others kept a close watch on her. As for this matter, as her fiancé, he knew absolutely nothing about it. How many more things was this lass going to hide from him? Did she even treated him as her man? Thinking of this, Li Moying turned around and stared at Huang Yueli. Huang Yueli saw his fierce look and blinked her eyes innocently, asking curiously, "Why? You're still upset? Don't worry, anyway the next time the black-robed man appears, we will be able to capture him, so don't be too, ouch." She felt a sharp pain on her lower jaw as Li Moying pinched her chin and lifted her face up forcefully. After that, he used all his strength to press down on her lip. Li Moying's kiss was very sudden and furthermore, it wasn't gentle. It was skin to a violent crush onto that cherry blossomed-like delicate lips, and even biting her hard. Huang Yueli cried out in pain, but that allowed Li Moying to take advantage of the situation as he let his tongue into her mouth, exploring everywhere hurriedly. Huang Yueli turned her head around in an attempt to struggle free, too. The man's fingers were strong as though a metal pincer holding onto her lower jaw, even causing her to be in pain. She couldn't struggle free, so she could only helplessly allow the man's overbearing force to intrude. As time went past, Huang Yueli didn't even have the breath to pant when this kiss finally came to an end. Li Moying stepped back a little and lowered his head to see her flushed face and moistened eyes. His heart pounded and couldn't help but bit her lips once again. Are you born in the year of the dog? Why did you bite me? I'm warning you, Huang Yueli questioned him, feeling that her lips were both painful and numb. It probably had been kissed swollen by him. This man was just too savage, isn't it? He actually bit her when their thoughts collided and later on kissed her till she grew groggy, totally unable to gauge where she was. Li Moying put his forehead onto hers and laughed deeply. Warn me? What you do want to warn me about? Following his closing in, the strong man's breath filled her nose and the pressure was just too intense, making her heart pound, biting onto her lips, not making a single sound. Tell me, what do you want to warn me about? Li Moying looked at her blushing look, as his heart pounded and got close to her intentionally, greedily looking at her shy look. Huang Yueli started crying foul in her heart. What's the big deal about being handsome? Why did he show this look? What else should she say? After some time, she finally forced out a sentence. You let me go. Quickly let go. Li Moying shrugged his shoulders. All right, since you strongly requested for it, then I'll let you go. Quick. Huang Yueli urged. Li Moying's eye flashed a mischievous intent and his arms really loosened, letting her go. Huang Yueli felt the pressure on her waist disappeared and was heaving a sigh of relief, but she discovered that her body actually uncontrollably fell towards the back. She tried to maintain her balance, but she wasn't able to move her hands and feet. You can also listen on. Damn it. She forgot that she was still tied up by the 8 astro-intertwined chain. She's finished this time. Li Moying, that stinky man, was just too evil. He obviously knew that but didn't bother to remind her at all. Her body tilted and inclined to one side, and just as she was about to get into close contact with the ground. But Li Moying unexpectedly gave a detached point of view look, without any intention to help her, as the corners of his lips carried a smile bearing a look which seemed to be waiting to watch to a great show. Their eyes met each other and Li Moying lightly spat out a few words. Beg me, Leah. Huang Yueli was so angry that her eyes turned red. What kind of man was he, really? He was so evil that his dregs were shedding. How could she possibly beg him? She resolutely refused to beg. She firmly would ignore this kind of scum who took advantage of others in their time of need. Wasn't it just a fall? What's the big deal? Something's not right. Huang Yueli peeked from the corners of her eyes and realized that not only was the black muddy ground behind her was extremely dirty, it also gave out a disgusting smell. If she were to fall on that, it would absolutely disgust her to death. The good and evil were fighting in her mind when she finally could not bear it any further and cried out, Li Moying, you dare to let me fall? By her ear rang the man's complacent laughter, and following that, her waist felt a strength holding on to her, and at that instant, her face plastered against a sturdy chest. Huang Yueli had escaped the danger zone, but recalling that this man's intentional horrendous ways, anger arose from deep within, and when she lifted her head, she saw Li Moying's shirt opened up a little, revealing his neck. She took the opportunity and bit him. In her mind there was only one thought, which was this man bit her earlier, so she must bite him back. Oof. Her bites had always been well, and she had always bitten rather hard. It was only after she had bitten Li Moying's neck so much that she tasted blood before she regained her senses. What was she doing? Why was it that every time she had been agitated by this man, she would lose her senses? She seemed to keep doing some absurd stuff. Li Moying moaned but didn't avoid her, allowing her to finish biting him before he called out in a low voice, all right, it's all my fault. I wouldn't dare to let you fall. After all, if you're injured from the fall, the one who would have a heartache would be me, isn't that so? Be good and don't be angry anymore. I'll let you bite me back. Do you want to bite a few more mouthfuls? He spoke gently to coax the young lady in his embrace as he was feeling rather complacent. He wouldn't admit that he especially enjoyed the feeling of making his wife fire up than having to coax her later. This little thing's infuriated look was especially cute, alright? Luckily Huang Yueli didn't know what kind of abnormal thinking he had in his mind, otherwise she would definitely never forgive him forever. As for now, Huang Yueli had already been electrified by his mushy sweet nothings and her goosebumps had all dropped onto the ground, unable to continue being angry with him. Especially after she saw the bite on his neck was still bleeding, she felt a sense of guilt. Are you alright? I've bitten so hard that it's painful, right? But you can't blame me for that, it's you who absurdly kissed me forcefully and you even bit me, so I'm just taking my revenge. As Huang Yueli said that, she even raised her chin haughtily. Li Moying thought of the conversation which they had before they kissed and his expression sunk as his good mood disappeared into thin air. You'd better not say anything which would make me upset, I still have a debt which I haven't settled with you yet. Huh? Huang Yueli was stunned for a moment. What did I do? Li Moying ignored her as his arm reached for her, but using a bit of force, he slung her over his shoulder with her head facing down. You can also listen on. This position was just so ugly. Huang Yueli's face flushed red immediately and she cried out loudly, Hey, Li Moying, what are you trying to do? Let me down, let me down. I can walk by myself. Li Moying stretched out his hand and slapped her butt. A crisp piak was heard which made Huang Yueli's face burnt even redder. Heavens! This stinky man actually hit her butt. Aha! Know your own place, aren't you being tied up until you can't even move? Still want to walk? This 8-astro intertwined chain is not so easily untied, so all you need to do is to let me down and follow my instructions. Huang Yueli hurriedly said. No way. Li Moying directly rejected her reasonable request and spoke out simultaneously, Don't blame me for not reminding you. We are both famous in Celestial Light Academy, and if you continue to scream out loudly, if we meet anyone along the way, they would definitely recognize you and that would only be more embarrassing. When Huang Yueli heard this, she suddenly recalled that when she was discovered by the black-robed man, there was a team of students who had passed by the scripture depository. At that time, they had even intended to help her fight against the black-robed man and they probably hadn't left yet. They might really see her embarrassing look. Thinking of this, Huang Yueli grew even gloomier as she buried her face into Li Moying's trapezius, not daring to say anything further. Li Moying found that she had finally quieted down and carried her directly back to their courtyard. The both of them had no spare time to take notice of anything else, but that bunch of students had actually not left the forest surroundings. Earlier, they had seen the black-robed man pursuing Huang Yueli, and although they knew that even if they managed to chase up to them, they were not his opponent. But as they were not resigned to just leave like that, they thought that they might be of some help at the crucial timing. So other than the one who had been sent to ask for help, the other students remained nearby. Just as everyone had no ideas up their sleeves and didn't know what they could do to help, Li Moying's tall and straight silhouette appeared in the forest and even inquired about Huang Yueli's whereabouts. The few of them hurriedly explained the situation and pointed out the direction to him. Li Moying was so worried that he didn't even have time to thank you and had directly rushed into the forest. Even after Li Moying had arrived, but they didn't leave immediately because from what those core students thought, although Li Moying's ability was really strong and had remained as Celestial Light Academy's #1 top expert, but that black-robed man was a 7th stage realm top-rated exponent. No matter how genius Li Moying was among the younger generation practitioners, how would he possibly fight against such a top exponent? But the result was beyond their expectations, as the person who had been defeated and fled was the black-robed man. Heavens, am I seeing things? Earlier was the man who had slipped away the black-robed man. Senior brother Li had actually defeated the 7th stage realm top expert. Could it be that his ability is now comparable to the 7th stage realm? You are not seeing things, that really is. Is senior brother Li even human? Could he possibly be the legendary 9th grade talent? What kind of joke is that? A 9th grade talent will only appear once every few decades. Furthermore, would this sort of talent even stay in our academy? He would probably be snatched by various large sects to be taken in as their disciple, right? But if senior brother Lee is not a 9th grade talent, then how could he possibly defeat a 7th stage realm expert? This is really something that is not easy to explain. Just as the crowd were discussing on this, they saw Li Moying carrying Huang Yueli leaving the forest. It wasn't good to discuss about others behind their backs, so the few of them immediately shut their mouths. You can also listen on. They didn't know if Li Moying saw them as he tangled with Huang Yueli for a while as though there was no one around. When he finally carried his calmed fiancée and left, those students instantly broke out. Wait, what did I see? Senior brother Lee carried junior sister Bai out from the forest and they actually played bondage? I saw that too. Junior sister Bai had been tied up securely from head to toe. Her hands and feet are tied on her back and she totally couldn't move an inch. Senior brother Lee's taste is a little too heavy, isn't it? What do you mean? Could it be that senior brother Lee had that kind of special hobby? Isn't that so? Otherwise why was junior sister Bai tied up in that way? He even hit her but, heavens, his taste is so heavy. I'd never expected senior brother Lee to actually have this kind of hobby. Junior sister Bai has such great talent but she actually was willing to be abused by him in this way. This is something that you don't understand. Some people likes to torture others so naturally there would be some who loved to be abused. This is called inclination. The few of them looked at one another in dismay and thought that they had seen through Li Moying and Huang Yueli's real selves. Huang Yueli totally had not expected that Li Moying and her actions had been misinterpreted into such a manner. Furthermore, they had even been treated like a piece of gossip news which spread throughout Celestial Light Academy. Otherwise, she absolutely would fight adamantly against the evil forces till the bitter end. Li Moying, on the other hand, had faintly heard the discussions behind their backs but he didn't treat it as something important. As a man who had a beautiful, intelligent and capable wife, he had to allow those single dogs to admire, envied, be jealous and hated them so these were all unavoidable. Moreover, he had something even more pressing to handle now so he had no mood to deal with these. He carried Huang Yueli back to her room and threw her onto the bed. Huang Yueli was like a caterpillar as she twisted and turned on the bed, speaking out at the same time, "All right, now listen to my instructions and help me untie this 8-astro intertwined chain." First of all, she was still talking when her eyes suddenly widened and she looked with her mouth opened and eyes bulging at Li Moying, who had stretched out his slender fingers and gently pinched the chain, casually shaking it. A ding-dong-dong sound was heard as the entire chain fell apart onto the ground. Even Huang Yueli was also stunned by this. She knew Li Moying's ability was very strong, but that was after all a 6th-tier profound armament. To use brute force to break it apart was very difficult. Not only did the profound energy needed to be extremely pure, it also had to be paired with an exclusive method otherwise even a 9th stage realm top exponent might not be able to break it apart. After Li Moying broke the chain, he hurriedly climbed up the bed and as his body hovered above Huang Yueli, he looked downwards at her. "Li Moying, why are you getting so close to me for?" Huang Yueli suddenly got flustered. This man's expression was unfathomable and the way he gazed at her was filled with invasiveness, as though he was going to eat her up cleanly. Furthermore, the both of them were not in the quiet, dirty forest but on a clean and soft bed. This stance was just too ambiguous. Huang Yueli stretched out her hand against his chest and gave him a push. "Get away further, I'm tired and I want to take a shower." Li Moying grasped her little hand and said in a chilly voice, "After you've showered, I have something to ask you." Huang Yueli was shocked. "What? You want to ask me something?" Li Moying said, "What did you do when you went to the scripture depository today?" You can also listen on. Huang Yueli blinked. Regarding this. I went to the scripture depository is because I went to exchange for manuscript. You also know that after I've passed the Armament Master certification, I obtained 3 honorary points so I cannot waste it. The corners of Li Moying's lips curled coldly cutting into her words. "Do you treat me like an idiot? You went to borrow a manuscript and someone specially went to assassinate you. Moreover, a 7th stage realm top expert. To risk making a move in Celestial Light Academy, there must be some important reason. I want to know why. Huang Yueli had rarely told him a lie, or even to say, that wasn't really a lie but just skipping the important parts only, but she was exposed by Li Moying directly. She instantly became embarrassed. This matter is rather complicated and it can't be told in just 2 or 3 sentences. Li Moying sneered, if you can't finish the story in 2 or 3 sentences, then add on more sentences. Anyway, I have a lot of time, so no matter how long the story is, I have the patience to hear it out. Huang Yueli shifted her eyes slowly from bottom to top and secretly took a glance at his expression. Even though that handsome face was filled with unhappiness, it was still so good-looking that it could suffocate one. His forehead creased slightly and his tightly pursed lips made him look invasive, whereas his well-built body gave out an intense pressurizing feeling. Li Moying usually treated her gently and was full of consideration, and was rarely so fierce towards her. Huang Yueli unhappily stared at him. Why are you acting so fierce for? I didn't say I won't tell you. She thought about it and felt that there wasn't any need to hide this from Li Moying. If she couldn't even trust Li Moying, then she really didn't know who else she could believe in. Therefore she told him the story regarding Bai Liu Feng from the start to the end. So the story goes like this. My motive in coming to Celestial Light Academy is mainly to look for the remnants which my father had left behind for me, but he actually told me the secret compartment is empty. I think the reason for the black-robed man to pursue after me should be related to the item which my father left behind, but I don't know what actual motive he has. So in this way, the item which your father left behind is highly possibly in his hands. I also feel so. At the very least, it is connected to him. Huang Yueli finished her story, but she realized that Li Moying still bore an icy cold expression on his face, frowning slightly. She reached out between his eyebrows and gently massaged him, saying, "All right, you asked me to tell you and I've already done so. I only know about these and haven't hidden anything else from you. Why are you still unhappy? Today's pursuit is something that I had not expected and I also didn't want it to happen, all right? I almost died from his strike and instead of comforting me, you actually showed me this expression." Li Moying still bore that icy cold expression. Huang Yueli pouted her lips and pushed him aside. "All right, then continue to be angry, I'm going to bath." Saying that she wanted to get up. But not waiting for her to sit upright, she had once again been pushed onto the bed. Li Moying pressed against her and speaking in an unfriendly tone, "I ask you, why didn't you tell me beforehand that you're going to the 4th level of the scripture depository to look for clues? Don't you know that as the young sect master of Celestial Light Sect, entering the 4th level of the scripture depository is a breeze? If I had accompanied you, would this still have happened today?" Huang Yueli was dumbfounded. I really hadn't thought of this. Right, it could be done in this way? Li Moying sneered, "Forget about it, it's not that you hadn't thought about it. You're not willing to rely on me, so you intentionally didn't think in that way. You really don't treat me as your fiancé, right? You can also listen on." Huang Yueli subconsciously wanted to rebuke him, but when the words came to her mouth, she suddenly stopped. How should she answer this question? Say she admits she and Li Moying were a couple? But things shouldn't be this way. Li Moying was initially a little upset, but on seeing her acting hesitantly, fire immediately flared up. "What? Have I guessed correctly? You've never recognized me from the bottom of your heart. Have you never treated me as an insider? So you had never intended to seek help from me? Even though these matters to me is as easy as lifting a finger, but you never intended to open your mouth to me." The more Li Moying thought, the angrier he got. His expression grew gloomier each time he raised a question. His voice wasn't loud, but from his stern tone and tightened expression, one could tell that this man was extremely angry. Huang Yueli immediately shook her head. Don't be like this, I really didn't do it intentionally. I really forgot about it. Why must you talk to me so fiercely?" Saying that, she blinked her watery large eyes and even pursed her lips, bearing an innocent look in an attempt to act adorable to get past this. But was Li Moying an easy person to hoodwink? His eyelids drooped and his deep black pupils swept past her exquisite and delicate face, continuing with his interrogation, "Don't divert the topic, answer me. What on earth do you treat me as?" Huang Yueli's eyes met his and was shocked by his deep eyes as she anxiously swallowed her saliva. That, of course I treat you as an insider, how could I possibly treat you like an outsider? Absolutely not possible. Before she could finish her sentence, Li Moying pinched her sharp jaw and held her in front of her face, repeating word by word, you clearly know. I'm not asking about this. Answer me. An answer. What? Huang Yueli was totally engulfed in his anger, totally immovable. What person do you treat me as? Do you like me or not? How much recognition do I have in your heart, that I'm your fiancé? Li Moying repeated his question once again as his tone was extremely stern. Huang Yueli subconsciously avoided his gaze as her eyelashes kept fluttering and she bit her lips slightly, not speaking a single word. Li Moying's questions, she couldn't answer any of it at all, or perhaps it was said that if she had to answer it, her answer might not necessarily make Li Moying satisfied. Furthermore, she could not open her mouth to answer him. Li Moying stared at her, waiting all the while. Actually, he understood that silence itself was a type of answer. But he couldn't believe it nor could he accept it, so he kept waiting. He rather hypnotized himself that Huang Yueli was testing me or she was shy and not willing to trust easily, so she used silence to represent her rejection. Only, he waited for a long time and Huang Yueli still refused to say a single word. It was so long that his heart had bit by but became colder and colder. Li Moying's expression displayed disappointment as he felt defeated, incapable of continuing further. He didn't know why he had failed or why was it that no matter what he did, he was incapable of moving this young lass's heart. This is probably the first time his heart was touched, and furthermore, the feeling was so strong that the minute he laid his eyes on Huang Yueli, his heart had been captured completely. He had been serious and devoted, and at the same time, very confident. Because of his innate talent, looks and status, he had always been the target of those talented ladies and had never once thought that under the situation where he was the proactive one, there would be any possibility of failure. You can also listen on. But the young lass in front of him had given him a beating on his head. The first time he was rejected, Li Moying didn't felt defeated. Although that was his first time wooing a lady, but although he had never eaten pork, he had also seen a pug run. So he completely understood that the both of them were not close enough, so for this young lass to doubt his character and sincerity, to reject him, was something normal. But following that was the second rejection. And after that was the third and fourth. Li Moying admitted that he had already displayed all his sincerity and even used his utmost effort on her, but unfortunately he had been rejected again and again. There were many times when he clearly felt that Leah's eyes seemed to show some feelings for him and didn't reject his kisses or touches, so that would at least meant that she had already been touched, right? However, whenever he wanted to take another step further to ascertain their relationship, he had met with a cold bucket of water each and every time. Towards a peerless talent like Li Moying, this was his biggest hurdle which he had met with in his entire lifetime. He simply could not understand where did he go wrong. Why was it that Huang Yueli refused to be together with him? Li Moying looked at Huang Yueli with a complicated expression and his right hand clenched tightly into a fist and later relaxed before he spat out a few words lightly. Why? Huang Yueli had kept her head lowered apprehensively as she didn't know why herself on why she was feeling so guilty. She and Li Moying, she had long ago said that it was impossible between them, wasn't it? She didn't made any promises with Li Moying, wasn't that so? But why was it that when this man interrogated her, she felt as though she had committed some serious matter against him and even betrayed him? Hearing Li Moying's questions, she blankly raised her head. What? She had once thought of it before that Li Moying might possibly be angry. That strong and overbearing peerless genius had been rejected by her every single time, so getting infuriated was absolutely normal. But she wasn't afraid because she had a magical self-confidence, as though she subconsciously knew that no matter how angry this man was, he would not hurt even a single strand of her hair. But she had not expected that instead of flying into a rage, he asked this question instead. Li Moying took a deep breath and suppressing the answer in his heart, he tried to make himself seem slightly more peaceful. I asked, where on earth do you feel that I'm lacking in? Where am I not performing well enough? Why can't you? Why are you unable to accept me? Do you know, As Li Moying was saying that, he clenched hard on his teeth and felt a bloody taste from his gums flowing out, not saying a single word more. Even though he didn't finish his sentence, Huang Yueli knew what he wanted to say. This man's sincerity towards her, she had indeed felt it. Huang Yueli wasn't really an ignorant young lady. On the contrary, she had been wooed by countless people in her previous life, so she could tell clearly which man treated her with sincerity and which were more suitable for her. Actually, deep within her heart, she had long admitted that she had some feelings for Li Moying. If it wasn't for Mu Chengying, perhaps, she might had agreed long ago. But under the heavens, there wasn't any ifs. She raised her eyes and saw the pained expression on Li Moying's face as her heart started twitching in pain faintly too. If it was possible, she didn't want this to happen. To make him so upset. Huang Yueli hesitated for a moment and decided that she must make matters clear to him today. You can also listen on. Li Moying, listen to me. Huang Yueli clenched her teeth as she said. Some things, she felt that even if she said it out no one would believe her, so she didn't want to say it out easily, but now, she felt that it was necessary to tell part of the truth, in order to cut off Li Moying's feelings. The more the two of them tangled together, the deeper they fell, and if that carried on, it would end up in a severe consequence. She hardened her heart. Actually, it really isn't because you're no good, but because I already have something who I like. Moreover, we've already discussed on our marriage. So I'm extremely sorry, I cannot accept you. Just treat it as, you're too late. Li Moying's heart trembled as he suddenly recalled a memory of the past. There was once when Huang Yueli was seriously injured and had gone into a concussion. Her senses were unclear and she hugged him, saying a lot of senseless words, and even started crying. At that time she had indeed mistaken him as someone else, even saying things such as asking him not to leave, and even proactively nearing him to kiss her. At that time, Li Moying felt that Huang Yueli should have someone whom she liked and was extremely jealous then, even thinking of giving up on her. But after that he thought again and felt that things weren't that simple. Huang Yueli had grew up in South Yu Kingdom since young, and her growing up days weren't complicated at all. Li Moying had sent someone back to South Yu Kingdom to do a background search on her, and the conclusion was that Huang Yueli had never left South Yu Kingdom previously, and this trip to Sky Cloud City was her first time traveling. As for the news that she had a love history with someone else, there were no clues to it at all. Furthermore, she was so young and didn't seem as though there was any possibility for her to settle down privately with anyone at all. Li Moying didn't understand why, but one thing he was certain of was that there were no traces of any man appearing next to Huang Yueli at all. Therefore he had been hypnotizing himself. Perhaps it was all his own imagination that Huang Yueli liked someone else, and the truth wasn't that at all. Even if there was, that would probably be in the past. But now, Huang Yueli's words was like a resounding slap, smacking him right on his face. So, Leah really had someone whom she liked. Furthermore, she had really settled down a marriage agreement with that person. How could such a thing happen? How could such a thing possibly happen? Li Moying looked at Huang Yueli in disbelief, as he started shaking all over. How is that possible? You're just 14, what's wrong with being 14? I matured earlier, can't I? When Li Moying heard that, he regained some energy as he seemed to see a glimmer of hope. You're still so young, how could you possibly know who you like? You're obviously not matured yet. How can you be so sure that the person you like is not me? Huang Yueli responded, Because I just know it, I like him, and in my heart, he is the most powerful, most perfect man who treats me the best. To wait by her side for so many decades, not anyone could do that. She and Mu Chengying were together for so many years. Although they had not gotten married, but recalling the past memories still had numerous sweet memories, which could not be forgotten. Li Moying's heart grew cold. Most powerful, most perfect, treated her the best. He tried his utmost best but was still unable to make Huang Yueli feel that he was that kind of man. Alas, he really was too late. In Leah's heart, there was already a man of her choice. Li Moying was unreconciled as he pursued for an answer. Who is he? Who on earth is he? Since you describe him in such a manner, how could he leave you for so long, leaving you alone in South Yu Kingdom to face so many dangers? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli blinked, not knowing how to answer, so she could only reply, "You don't know." Li Moying suddenly got agitated. "I don't know? I think the person who doesn't know if the person you described also liked you, then would he leave you alone to let those people in the Bai family to bully you? Wouldn't he want to see you every day, but for such a long period of time, he had never once showed up? It's just wishful thinking on your own part." "No, it's not like that." Huang Yueli immediately denied loudly. "You don't understand, we have our own difficulties." "Difficulties?" Li Moying sneered, as he felt extremely unresigned in his heart. "I only know that no matter what difficulties I have, I will never leave you alone to face all those troubles, not willing to let you suffer even a little pain, and it's definitely not possible for me to not show any interest in you. Such a man is not worth your love. Why can't you give me a chance?" Li Moying was both angry and anxious as he punched the wall, giving off a loud bam sound. Huang Yueli tugged at his hand with her heart pained. "You don't act like this. You will get hurt. You still care if I get hurt or not?" Li Moying took the opportunity to hold her wrist, pressing it down on the pillow. "Since you don't feel anything for me, why do you bother if I'm injured or not? You have no feelings for me, isn't it? No matter who that man is, give up on him. I guarantee that I will treat you better than him by 1,000 times, 10,000 times," he said anxiously as his eyes turned slightly red. Huang Yueli grew gloomy again, and after some time, she spoke, "Don't be like this. What I'm saying is not fake. The person I like, he's a true peerless 9th stage realm top exponent. There is no stronger existence in this entire soaring heavens continent." Li Moying was dumbstruck. "What?" Huang Yueli avoided his gaze as she lowered her voice and continued, "Although he's not by my side now, but I know he had his own reasons. Furthermore, Huang Yueli bit her lip and her expression was struggled as she clenched her teeth and spoke again. "Furthermore, I like him because he's powerful enough, he's able to protect me, and I can make others envy me. Do you understand? You cannot be compared to a peerless 9th stage realm top exponent like him, so my heart will not change, so just give up on me." What do you mean?" Li Moying's eyes grew wide with a completely defeated look, his face became deathly pale. Huang Yueli's heart ached faintly when she saw him. She knew clearly that a super genius like Li Moying probably had not been despised by anything in his entire lifetime before. With such innate talent and ability, but he was rejected with the reason that his ability could not match up. Probably his pride took a serious hit, and maybe he might feel that she was a materialistic and shameless woman. But she could not put it in that way. Li Moying's expression was both green and white. Apparently his heart was feeling terrible to the maximum. The hand which was grabbing onto Huang Yueli's wrist subconsciously increased in its strength, almost to the point of breaking her wrist. Why must you act in this way? Don't you understand? With my innate talent, reaching 9th stage realm is just a matter of time. Within 5 years, I will be able to become a first-rated top exponent in soaring heavens continent, and I will let you become the woman whom everyone in the entire continent envies. You just need to give me some time. I can give you anything." His words were put in such a sincere way which made Huang Yueli's heart ache even further. You can also listen on. An arrogant man like Li Moying probably found it beneath his dignity to use power and status to win a woman's heart, and he would most likely despise women who were materialistic. But in order to make her happy, he simply couldn't care for anything else and threw his principles aside, putting all his pride down in front of her. Unfortunately, it was impossible for her to reply him favorably. "Li Moying, don't you understand? What I want is, not 5 years later, but now. There are so many exceptional talents in soaring heavens continent, but those who are able to become a 9th stage realm top exponent, there's not even 10 of them. There are plenty of accidents in one's life, and who can guarantee that they would be able to reach the supreme throne? Even if you can, I cannot wait for 5 years, it's too long." Huang Yueli bore with her heartache as she forced herself to say such word. She kept her eyes shut tightly, not daring to look at the expression on Li Moying's face. To be slapped on the face by a lady whom he liked, no matter how much he liked her, surely there was no way to take such a blow, right? Li Moying had been hovering on top of Huang Yueli, and at such a close distance, Huang Yueli could distinctly felt Li Moying trembling. He must be very angry, right? Perhaps he was so infuriated that he wanted to strangle her to death. If he really made a move against her, then she got her just desserts. Lee Mo-ying really wanted to kill someone. He really had not imagined that the little thing which he had placed carefully in his heart actually looked down on him like that. In actual fact, he really didn't care how materialistic Huang Yueli was. To want a husband who had a strong ability and to want everyone's envious looks to stay on her, he felt that this was something that she deserved to have. Such an intelligent and beautiful lady like her naturally deserved the best man in soaring heaven's continent. But why was she in such a hurry? Why couldn't she give him a little more time? He would try his utmost best to fulfill all her wishes, but she refused to give him a chance. He trusted his own eyesight. Huang Yueli was so intelligent, so naturally she shouldn't be so short-sighted. So there were only two possibilities for her to choose another man. The first was this man was really too powerful, so powerful of an existence that even if he took 5 or even 10 years, it was very difficult to catch up to him. The second was Huang Yueli truly liked this man and don't like him, so in order to make him give up, she chose to speak such harsh words. Lee Mo-ying screened all the top exponents in the entire soaring heavens continent in his heart but did not find any which suited the first scenario. He knew clearly that his innate talent was in fact 9th grade and above, and it was unimaginable for ordinary people. Even the number 1 expert Mu Chengying, he might not even have such innate talent. Moreover, Mu Chengying had already gone into closed-door seclusion for many years, so naturally it wasn't possible for him to have any contact with Huang Yueli. As for the rest of the others, he had the confidence to surpass them within 5 years' time. In this way, the only possibility that remained, the only one which also made his heart shattered. Leah didn't like him. Actually, Lee Mo-ying heard others said this before, that matters of the heart could not be forced. Fate had been predestined by heavens, and sometimes even if there was a very good person, but unfortunately there was no way of falling in love with that someone. Lee Mo-ying originally didn't believe that such a thing would ever happen to him. But now, he could only admit that in terms of cultivation, he wouldn't lose to anyone, but in terms of relation, he was a complete loser from head to toe. He silently hovered on top of Huang Yueli and lowered his head, looking at her delicate and exquisite face with a complicated gaze. You can also listen on. Even though he knew that her heart belonged to someone else, but just looking at her still made him heart-tingled. This kind of feeling was an instinct, as though it had been engraved into the depths of his soul, unable to dispel or forgotten. This really was his inexorable doom in his life. Lee Mo-ying didn't know what else to say and didn't know what else he could do. He couldn't bear to hurt her, but he wasn't able to see her throwing herself into another man's embrace. His brows knitted tightly together as he used his strength and pushed himself up. The pressure was suddenly lessened and Huang Yueli hurriedly opened her eyes, but could only see the departing figure of Lee Mo-ying walked away in big strides. Such an overbearing and arrogant man, when he walked out, his footsteps were even slightly unstable. Huang Yueli's melancholic feelings dropped to a new low as she bit her lips and mumbled to herself, "Have I done something wrong? Should I have not given him such a blow like that? But it's all for his own good. I cannot allow him to fall in the middle of his path because of me." The words she had said were all harsh, and the only motive was to make Lee Mo-ying completely disappointed with her, to keep a distance from her. Because no one knew clearer than her that Mu Chengying's character was so alike to Lee Mo-ying, with such overbearing and arrogance. Furthermore, as Mu Chengying's ability helmed the entire soaring heavens continent, he was already in the top seat for such a long time. As compared to Lee Mo-ying, who was still growing, they were simply incomparable. How could Mu Chengying possibly accepted that the woman he liked being tangled with another man? Someday, Huang Yueli would have to return to Mu Chengying, and if Lee Mo-ying had not given up yet, and was still staying by her side, then the consequence would only result in Mu Chengying making a move against him. Moreover, Mu Chengying had always been merciless against his love rivals. As long as those unrestrained bees and butterflies around Huang Yueli that year had hindered his eyes, they would end up either dead or seriously injured. Lee Mo-ying was still very young and had a bright future in front of him. With his unsurpassed talent, if he were to fall in the middle, Huang Yueli really couldn't bear for it to happen. Even though they could not be lovers, the both of them should still be considered as friends, and she cannot harm him in that way. Now that things had come to pass, This should be the best ending. At least, she didn't need to be put in a difficult position and Li Moying wouldn't be burdened by her. Huang Yueli thought that she could remain indifferent about this matter. She was the one who had been through great winds and high waves, and there were so many times when her life was at stake in her previous life, and none of it raised any waves in her heart. Moreover, wasn't it just rejecting a man who was wooing her? She had done that several hundred times before. But, that night, she lost sleep. The bed was short of another person and it instantly seemed as though it had turned chilly as the room was exceptional quiet, so quiet that it made one feel restless. In actual fact, when Li Moying laid on the same bed next to her, both of them seldom talked and most of the time, Li Moying abided by the rules. The two of them laid on their own sides and only a stable and faint breathing sound could be heard in the middle of the night. But no matter how small this teeny sound was, Huang Yueli still felt that it was too quiet. All the way till dawn, she finally felt some sleepiness. In a half-conscious state, she seemed to have returned to her past life. Mu Chengying's handsome and aloof face seemed to appear before her eyes. He put on a dark gold-colored robe, standing under a cherry blossom tree. His perfectly streaked side view was as though it had been sculpted, his thin lips slightly pursed as his gaze was stern and deep. Even though he didn't intentionally unleash his might, but as long as he stood there, the area would naturally be filled with an overbearing presence. You can also listen on. That scene was just too familiar and too realistic, like in the past. In the past, mythical flame palace which Huang Yueli was at, the cherry blossom trees on the most northern area bloomed during every spring and was filled with fragrance, beautiful beyond words. In countless of her memories, Mu Chengying arranged to meet her there. When she reached there, she would always see Mu Chengying's aloof and prestigious figure, waiting patiently for her there. When Mu Chengying heard her footsteps, he slowly turned around and that pair of charming and alluring cherry-blossomed eyes turned shiny as his gaze congealed on her. Huang Yueli felt dazed. That pair of eyes was still so enchanting and bewitching, which made her think of someone else. When Mu Chengying saw her, his gaze instantly softened and the sternness beneath his eyes immediately disappeared. Leah, a familiar voice rang by the side of her ear and Huang Yueli simply wanted to cry. She wanted to shout out loudly but her throat seemed to be choked. No matter how hard she tried, she wasn't able to make a single sound. Mu Chengying, why have you come? She heard her own voice, in an indifferent tone. Mu Chengying seemed slightly disappointed as he said, I'm here to see you, can you show me a more surprised look? Huang Yueli looked rather impatient as she continued, how do you want me to appear surprised? Don't you know that the reason why I'm here is because of the restoration of the Sky Phoenix Ring and I have been in closed-door seclusion to refine the armaments? It's because you're here which is why I came to meet you. If it's anyone else, I won't even bother to come out of my closed-door seclusion. When Mu Chengying heard what she said, he smiled and said, all right, I said the wrong things. It's my top honor for Leah to be willing to meet me. Come, take a seat over here. You haven't been resting and eating properly because of armament refining, right? Look, your dark eye rings have appeared. So what about that? Armament refining is the most important matter. What matter do you have? Quickly spill it out. The fire in my armament furnace has not been extinguished yet. Although Huang Yueli seemed impatient in her words, but when Mu Chengying stretched out his hand and held her wrists, not only did she not reject him, she even allowed him to lead her to sit by his side. Mu Chengying said, all right, be obedient, I have an important matter to tell you. What? Huang Yueli's eyes suddenly grew wide. Mu Chengying suddenly paused before continuing, you should know that my cultivation had been stuck at the peak of 9th stage realm for several years now and although my profound energy had always been rising these past few years, but I'm unable to break through, Huang Yueli said. There's a legend that above the 9th stage realm peak is the 10th stage god realm but due to the change that happened 70,000 years ago, there is no way to ascend to the god realm. You're the only top practitioner in the entire soaring heavens continent in the past 70,000 years with the highest innate talent, so the possibility for you to become a 10th stage realm practitioner is the highest. Mu Chengying nodded and continued, in fact recently, I could feel that my own profound energy seemed to be breaking through the last bottleneck and perhaps, I might be able to take this last step very soon. What? Really? Huang Yueli's face revealed a surprised expression. That's great. If you really are able to do it, then it would mean that 10th stage realm is not just a legend and it's possible to reach it. Really? You feel very happy over this? Mu Chengying inquired. Naturally, we've been best friends for the longest time. For this advancement, you'd been diving into your cultivation for so many years and you've finally arrived at this step, so how could I possibly not feel happy for you? Huang Yueli replied in a matter-of-fact manner. You can also listen on. Looking at Huang Yueli's pitilessly beautiful face, the sweet smile that hung on her face, Mu Chengying almost went into a daze from being enchanted, but immediately recalling his senses, his expression became complicated. But do you know that once I break through to the 10th stage realm, there is a possibility that what? Huang Yueli blinked her large innocent eyes as she gazed into his eyes. Mu Chengying wanted to say something but stopped. Several times when the words came to his lips, but he wasn't able to say anything out. Nothing, right? My purpose in this trip is to tell you that I plan to go into closed-door cultivation 3 days later and I'm afraid that it would be a long time before I can see you again. He chose to switch topics. Really? Huang Yueli went into a momentarily blank as she didn't realize the obvious disappointment on her face. From her expression, Mu Chengying was secretly feeling happy inside and he spoke again. When I'm not around, you must take good care of yourself. Don't forget to eat or sleep just for the sake of refining armaments and don't get into a tussle with anyone accidentally. The most important thing is, you're not allowed to get close to any other man, do you understand? As Huang Yueli listened on, her rage immediately flared up. Hey, what do you mean? Aren't you spreading your concern a little too wide? You're not even my father, and not my master, but I'm your man, Mu Chengying chortled as he came closer to her. With each step he advanced, Huang Yueli took a step backward. Suddenly Huang Yueli felt her feet stopping. There was no more route to back off as her back closed in against a cherry blossom tree. What are you doing? And, who is my man? Stop plastering gold on your own face, all right? Mu Chengying gave a light laugh as he lowered his head and leaned towards her. That cold as ice, good-looking face revealed a charming and bewitching smile. The killing power was tremendous. Huang Yueli's heart pounded wildly, as she subconsciously shut her eyes, silently waiting. For a moment, she thought Mu Chengying would kill her. However, she felt a tingling sensation on her forehead and subsequently that man retreated. Huang Yueli vacantly opened her eyes and saw Mu Chengying holding on to a flower petal in his fingers. She instantly was struck dumb. He was only trying to get rid of the petal that had fallen onto her forehead. And she had thought that. TSK, little fox, why do you look so dejected? Could it be that you wished for me to kiss you? Say so earlier. I am extremely willing. Since when? You saw wrongly. Why are you inching in? Get lost. Huang Yueli pamperedly denied, but Mu Chengying overbearingly held on to her lower jaw as he lowered his head and kissed her. By the time the both of them separated, Huang Yueli's face had turned into a shade of red, panting heavily. Mu Chengying saw her expression and almost couldn't keep it in. Their foreheads touched each other's and he said in a low voice, "Little fox, after I complete my closed-door seclusion let's get married." Who wants to marry you? You're thinking too much. Huang Yueli bit her lips as she retorted with a blushing red face. It's been so many years, you should account for me, right? Account for what? You're a man. So what if I'm a man? Does that mean you can take advantage of me and not be responsible for it? Huang Yueli was so angry that she wanted to bite him. What was called taking advantage of him and eating his tofu? Who on earth was taking advantage of who? He simply turned white into black, shameless. Mu Chengying pinched her fuming face. All right, stop being so pampered. You can also listen on. Who's acting pampered? I really don't want to marry, MFF. Her lips were sealed once again. After some time, Mu Chengying finally let her go and while she was gasping for air, he declared in a low voice, I know you like me too and I won't give you a chance to reject me. So just wait obediently and be my bride. Wait for me, Being gazed at in deep concentration by that pair of alluring and bewitching peach blossom eyes, Huang Yueli felt that her brain had turned into glue, as she absurdly nodded her head. Mu Chengying got so excited that he hugged her and carried her up, throwing her high up into the air. "Hey, Rouge, let me down." Not letting go. Huang Yueli was speechless. Did he needed to act like this? Wasn't he the callous and dignified #1 top expert? Why had he become so childish to this degree? She started to regret, she shouldn't had nodded earlier. However, it was all too late. Would Mu Chengying gave her the chance to regret. The two tangled together for a while more before Mu Chengying left the mythical flame palace. Huang Yueli's face flushed a deep shade of red, touching her lips which were kissed swollen by him, as she wasn't able to express the feeling in her heart. She had originally thought that she devoted her lifetime to pursuing the way of cultivation and the peak of armament refining and would never be tied down by maternal affairs. So naturally marrying this kind of thing never came across her mind at all. But now, from how excited Mu Chengying behaved, she also felt that she was brimming with longing. Being together with him should be much better than being alone by herself, right? Huang Yueli abruptly awoke from her dreams in shock, and it was until she saw the color of the sky before she discovered that it was already bright and sunny outside. The position beside her was still empty. Huang Yueli sat up, feeling that something was amiss. Touching her face, she felt some wet patches and realized that she had been tearing up in her dream. That was something that had happened so long ago, but in the dream, it seemed like it only happened yesterday. Thinking of the countless times when Mu Chengying proposed to her in the past, but was rejected every single time by her. It was until the very last time that she reluctantly agreed, with a tinge of unwillingness in her heart. In the end, after that last meeting, the two of them were separated by heaven and earth forever. Then, it was until Mu Chengying had departed when she suddenly remembered that she had forgotten to tell him that she was planning to go to the northern fields to search for the material to restore the Sky Phoenix ring. But Huang Yueli didn't really put too much thought into this. Because she wasn't there to create trouble and her whereabouts were well hidden, so she wasn't too worried that she'd meet with any trouble. A high-leveled armament master like her, if she didn't go looking for trouble, most people would not go and provoke her. Moreover, she had the backing of Mu Chengying, the ultimate demon king behind her. Whoever knew that she still overestimated human character. Her whereabouts were sold out by Ling Qingyu, and several soaring heavens continents hidden sacred grounds actually jointly set a trap for her, just for a god relic, ending her life in the northern ice fields. That also popped she and Mu Chengying's illusory bubble of their marriage arrangement. Bam bam bam, bam bam bam. While Huang Yueli was still in the midst of reminiscing in her past, she suddenly heard loud banging from her door. Furthermore, the person knocking sounded extremely urgent, knocking with a huge force, totally without any sense of propriety as expected from a guest. Huang Yueli's brows creased slightly as she speedily wiped the tears from her face and walked to the door as she opened it. She thought that the person would be Su Qingyu or maybe the people around Li Moying, but in the end, the one standing at the door was a young lady whom she had never seen before. That person looked around 18 to 19, her beauty was exceptional, with a tall figure. On first impression, she was a beauty that was hard to come by. You can also listen on. Moreover, she was wearing an embroidered white dress with gold outline which was woven out of spiritual snow silk, and just one piece was priceless. But seeing that her status was extraordinary, even those rich missy from those large families in Sky Cloud did not have such a luxury. The beauty bore a face of arrogance as she raised her chin and impolitely sized up Huang Yueli from head to toe as the corners of her lips hung an obvious sneer. Huang Yueli could tell instantly that this person came with ill intentions and couldn't help but frowned. Who are you? Don't you know that this place is the private quarters of core students and not anyone can just enter? The beauty sneered contemptuously. You are by Ruoli? Huang Yueli responded, that's right. And what advice do you have for me? If there are none, then please leave. The beauty couldn't tolerate as she gave a cold humph. Yo, this is just so rare. A countryside lass having such an unfriendly tone. Did you think that after hugging onto Celestial Light Sect's young sect master's leg, you'd turn into a phoenix? Have you even looked at yourself in the mirror to see what kind of quality you are? Hung Yueli's expression sunk. Looked like she didn't think wrongly. This beauty in front of her was here to create trouble. Only, she was now a famous celebrity in Celestial Light Academy and the other party actually dared to create trouble for her. This was rather rare. Furthermore, the other party knew that Li Moying was Celestial Light Sect's young sect master, and even dared to drop by to create trouble for her. This lady, please be respectful. What quality I am, I naturally know it clearly. As for you, running to other people's residence and shout abuses, this kind of behavior, I'd think that you're some auntie from the market haggling over pricing. Your appearance looks so appalling, how could you even have the face to say that of others? Huang Yueli would never be at the losing end, so her words, she said, were even more impolite. This made the other party completely enraged as the beauty's exquisite facial expression contorted. What did you say? You dare to call me an auntie from the market? Do you know who I am? Of course I do. The beauty's face revealed a sliver of delighted smile when she heard Huang Yueli continued speaking. Aren't you some shrewd making an unreasonable scene? Anyone knows this, so is there a need to specially highlight it? You dare to say that of me? The green veins on the beauty's forehead were popping up as she used her finger to point at Huang Yueli. Her fingers were shaking non-stop. I'm telling you, I'm Murong Fei, and I'm Li Moying's official fiancé. You little slut. A slut who seduced other people's fiancé and still dare to talk in that way to me? Whoever gave you the guts to do so? You're simply shameless to the max. Hearing that, Huang Yueli really got stumped. Who did you say you are? Murong Fei saw her surprised look and thought that she had suffered a serious blow as she started to feel slightly comfortable in her heart and found back some traces of superiority. No matter how powerful this little slut's mouth was, and no matter how hard a performance she put up, she was merely a countryside lass and had never seen the real world. She had definitely been scared stiff by a few words. Thinking of this, Murong Fei continued again. Why? Didn't hear me properly? I'm Celestial Light Sect's sect master's eldest Miss Murong Fei. Li Moying and I have been engaged since young. Huang Yueli finally regained her senses as she uncontrollably found it funny. So you're Celestial Light Sect's sect master's daughter. Your status is indeed a pampered young miss, so should I say I've heard of your good name? You say you're Li Moying's fiancé? Then who am I? You can also listen on. Murong Fei thought that she was scared as she smiled more complacently. You. Actually, we all understand, don't we? Men, occasionally their minds would flutter somewhere to find some excitement. Moreover, my Moying is an excellent man with ability, status and looks, so even if he didn't have any intentions of derailing, there would surely be some shameless slut who automatically stick themselves over in order to attention his attention. But, some people don't look at their own status. They really thought that a man like Moying would really marry her as his wife. Hey, simply daydreaming. He's merely just fooling around and naturally he knows what's important and what's not in his heart. When he's tired of it, then he will cast those wild flowers aside. Huang Yueli couldn't help giggling. Sounds reasonable. Miss Murong, you seem to understand men very well, eh? Murong Fei said disapprovingly. That's of course. To tell the truth, lasses like you, I've seen plenty. The number of ladies who tries to get close to Moying is countless. Among them are numerous large sects missy or talented young ladies with exceptional innate talent, but none of them could seduce him. You have some tricks up your sleeves, since you can shamelessly stick to him. Heavens knows what kind of shameless foxy tricks have you resorted to. Hearing her words getting nastier and nastier, Huang Yueli started to lose her patience. She swept Murong Fei a glance and said icily, Miss Murong, I think the shameless one is you. When has Li Moying ever admitted that you're his fiancé? I've heard Mo Yi and the rest talked about it, that there's a sect master's daughter whose skin is thicker than the city walls who keeps revolving around their master. Don't tell me that person is you. I'd like to advise you that when you start weaving your lies, please weave a better one. And one more thing, the look of you sticking to men is just too ugly. No matter what, you're still a sect master's daughter, so please don't embarrass Celestial Light Sect. You, what did you say about me? Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? Murong Fei was criticized impolitely by her that she was so angry that she almost got burdened by the anger. As Murong sect master's daughter, she had always been pampered, and adding on to her shockingly 8th grade innate talent and exceptional looks, everyone were always fighting to get into her good books. Only Li Moying treated her like air, but after all he was someone whom she liked, so she could tolerate with that. But what kind of thing was this by Ruoli? A country bumpkin from the countryside, a shameless little slut who seduces man dares to go against her and berate her so directly. Huang Yueli replied indifferently, "Why don't I dare to? You dare to do such a thing, would you be scared of other people talking about it?" Murong Fei replied sternly, "You dare to be so outrageous. I'm warning you, eldest senior brother is mine, get the hell out of Celestial Light Academy right now and keep away from eldest senior brother. If your performance is good, I can give you some spirit stones and let you continue your cultivation at some other academies. But if you obstinately persist in going about things the wrong way, and insist on hanging on to eldest senior brother and not letting go, then don't blame me for not standing on ceremony." Murong Fei's voice was stern and even unleashed her 6th stage realm's pressure. From what she saw, Huang Yueli was merely a young lass who had not seen the world, and in front of herself, someone with her status and ability, to be coerced in such a way, she'd probably be scared stiff immediately and kneel down to beg for mercy. However, Huang Yueli totally wasn't affected by her pressure and continued to show an indifferent expression. You can also listen on. My apologies, Miss Murong. I'd also like to leave Li Moying further away, but unfortunately he's the one who's sticking to me. I wanted to maintain a distance with him, but he refused. Furthermore, he had to go around saying he's my fiancé, and until now the entire academy's students think in that way, so no matter how much I explained, I am unable to clear this up. Impossible. You're lying. Murong Fei's eyes widened in disbelief and shaking her head, "This is impossible, stop talking blindly." Eldest senior brother had always treated women with indifference, so how could he possibly stick around you? Who do you think you are? There are so many young missy and peerless talents, and eldest senior brother didn't even take a look at them. If it wasn't for the fact that you're so shameless, using those lowly alluring methods, how could eldest senior brother possibly be together with you? Unfortunately, the truth is indeed like this. In fact, I didn't want to be together with Li Moying, but he insisted on coming over. What can I do? Since you like him, then go look for him and don't let him come stick to me. If he really takes a liking to you and want to be together with you, I promise that I won't come in between the both of you. Although her words were put in that way, but when Huang Yueli imagined the scene where Li Moying and Murong Fei together, she suddenly felt a little mind-blocked. But she didn't think this was out of jealousy, but because, no matter what, Li Moying was still her friend, right? If he were to find a wife with such a vile character, then that would be the worst luck that he had ran into for his past 8 lifetimes, so she couldn't bear to see that happening. Stop talking rubbish, how could that be possible? Eldest senior brother's character is cold and aloof, and he spends his time on cultivation, not wanting to dabble in love affairs. He didn't like anyone at all, and it's impossible that he will like you. Murong Fei used all her might to shake her head. Actually, before she came to look for Huang Yueli, she had already heard from many others and knew that what Huang Yueli said wasn't false at all. All the students said Li Moying and Huang Yueli were so loving, and Li Moying treated Huang Yueli so well, so this matter was the truth. But she's unable to accept that Li Moying treated Huang Yueli differently. Originally, Li Moying didn't bother himself with any woman, so her heart was able to balance itself. At least everyone were in the same scenario, and for them to be childhood sweethearts, that was her greatest chance. But with the appearance of someone who Li Moying truly liked, she was nothing at all. Murong Fei clenched her teeth as she said, "You foxy slut, what shameless tricks did you use to seduce eldest senior brother? Is it because those skills of yours are exceptionally good and eldest senior brother had no prior experience, so he was bewitched by you?" Enough. Huang Yueli couldn't force herself to continue listening. As a sect master's young miss, your words are simply appalling. If you have the ability, go look for Li Moying himself and see if you can say such words in front of him. I'm very busy and have no time to continue this with you. I don't welcome you here, so please get lost from my place. You dare to ask me to get lost? I'm asking you for the last time, are you going to leave Celestial Light Academy or not? Huang Yueli replied, "Impossible. Whether I'm in Celestial Light Academy for Li Moying or not, it is of no concern to you. She hadn't investigated Bai Liu Feng's matter properly, so how could she possibly leave so easily? You dare to disobey me? Did you think that eldest senior brother would always follow you and protect you? Simply looking for death. I'm telling you, for me to crush you is the same as crushing an ant that easy. Murong Fei's fury in her heart had raised to the max, and she couldn't tolerate it any further as she pushed out a strike and struck out towards Huang Yueli's chest. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli had long took guard against her, and when she saw her making a move, she instantly retreated backwards with a flash. At the same time, the bright fire ray lit up the entire room and charged towards Murong Fei's direction in an earth-shattering momentum. Two profound energy fiercely clashed against each other in the air. Both opponents gave a surprised look. Huang Yueli knew that this eldest young Miss Murong had a high innate talent and had expected that her potential wasn't ordinary, but she had not expected Murong Fei to be a 6th-stage realm practitioner. Moreover, her profound energy was pure. As compared to normal 6th-stage realm practitioners, her potential was much, much higher. Thinking that Luo Jiyun was also a Celestial Light Sect disciple, and he was also an 8th-grade talent, but his cultivation versus has differed by a whole large rel. From this one could tell Murong Fei could be so arrogant and proud because that was her capital. As compared to Huang Yueli, Murong Fei was even more shocked and surprised. According to her investigation, Huang Yueli was merely a 3rd-stage realm peak practitioner. No matter how much innate talent she had, surely in front of a 6th-stage realm practitioner, she was as weak as an ant and she should not be able to accept the full blow of it at all. But the truth had exceeded her imagination. The instant that Huang Yueli struck, Murong Fei felt that something was amiss, and following that, a strong surge of fire-attributed profound energy came shooting towards her, even making her feel an intense coercion. After the two profound energies interacted, a loud explosion was heard and blinding ray shot outwards. Murong Fei felt a turmoil on her chest and she took some time to suppress that disgusting feeling. She raised her head and took a look at Huang Yueli. Her face was pale, but she was still standing there properly. This was totally out of Murong Fei's imagination, as she had expected her to throw up blood and be seriously injured. How could this be possible? What stage cultivation are you at? Murong Fei blurted. Huang Yueli's lips curled into a faint smile. What stage cultivation am I? Everyone in the entire Celestial Light Academy knows about this. Haven't Miss Murong found out about this before you came over? It's Miss Murong you. Aren't you rumored to be an 8th-grade talent and a peerless genius? This potential really is out of my expectations. Actually, she wasn't feeling very good right now. An outstanding 6th-stage realm practitioner's attack, like Miss Murong, simply was not something which she could take now. It was all thanks to the entire set of 5th-tier defensive profound armor, adding on to her exclusive profound skills that she could barely take it on. But in actual face, she had already suffered a severe internal injury, but because her tolerance was slightly better, so no one could tell the problems that she had from the exterior. But Murong Fei didn't knew the truth, and when she saw this, she was horrified. Not possible. Celestial Light Academy students all said you are at the 3rd-stage realm 9th level. No matter how much innate talent you have, or how strong your battle power is, 3rd-stage realm is still 3rd-stage realm. How could you possibly take on my strike like that? Huang Yueli lazily replied, that naturally is because Miss Murong your skills are not perfected well enough. Don't keep thinking of twisting and turning around a man's backside and better spend the time on cultivating. Goodbye. Murong Fei's face turned green to purple, not to mention how ugly her expression had turned into. She had always been reigning the name of a peerless genius and felt that in the entire South Sky region, other than Li Moying, there was no other heaven-defying existence around, so everyone else could not matched up to her. Whoever knew that today, her strike was blocked by a 14-year-old lass? Could it be that this wretched slut's innate talent was much more outstanding than hers? You can also listen on. Something was wrong, not possible. Murong Fei suddenly thought of something as her eyes lit up. That's right. When she checked on this wretched lass, she heard others mentioned that she had just passed the Armament Master certification and was a genius armament master. Armaments masters could possibly had some ace behind their backs, so this probably wasn't her real potential. Murong Fei gave a sneer. Just accepting one strike from me and you really think you're so great? Don't think I don't know. I heard that your master is a great armament master in Soaring Heaven's continent. Did he give you some ace to preserve your life, so that you can block a 6th-stage realm practitioner's strike? But this can only be used once. Did you think that your own potential can go against a 6th-stage realm practitioner? Huang Yueli gave an indifferent smile. You also know that I'm an armament master? Then have you heard of this saying, never cross hands with an armament master on their turf? Otherwise, you will have to pay a heavy price for it. Ha ha ha. Murong Fei couldn't help but burst out laughing. Who do you think you are? You're just a first-tier armament master, and even if we're on your turf, what tricks could you possibly come up with? She stopped smiling and looked coldly at Huang Yueli. Earlier I just didn't expect that you have an ace up your sleeve and left you some leeway. Now I will use all my force and let you see the true potential of a 6th-stage realm practitioner. The man who I have taken a liking to is not someone who you can hope for. Saying that, Murong Fei's entire profound energy fluctuated and all the profound qi gathered on her body, emitting a layer of faint glow on her body's surroundings. The oppression in the air grew stronger and stronger. Murong Fei's grandeur continued to rise until it gathered 100% of her profound energy and she struck abruptly. Go to hell, by Ruoli. To be able to die under my full strength, this is also your honor. A strong surge of profound energy struck out in waves towards Huang Yueli's direction. Murong Fei's expression was filled with delight. Wretched lass, I'll let you die with an UN intact corpse today. But when her gaze shifted onto Huang Yueli, she discovered that Huang Yueli's face had a faint and calm smile on her face, and it even seemed to have some sense of ridicule in it. What was this situation? Had she seen wrongly? This must be some kind of illusion. This wretched lass was about to meet her doom, so how could she possibly still smile? However, the next moment, the smile on Murong Fei was frozen. She felt her own profound energy seemed to be blocked by something and wasn't able to get any closer to Huang Yueli. Immediately following that, a wave of profound energy which was much stronger than hers came rebounding back, and it struck her directly. Murong Fei was overwhelmed with shock as her face's colors changed. Ha! Her profound energy was actually rebounded back to her twofold. How could this be possible? However, she just had this thought flashed past her mind and she had already been struck. Murong Fei was sent flying outwards and she kept throwing up blood in midair. Subsequently her head knocked against a tree with crooked branches outside the courtyard. Murong Fei had not fainted yet, but she was totally immovable and could only clutch onto her chest, as she kept coughing out blood. 100% of her profound energy returned twofold. With this kind of intensity, even she herself was not able to take it. Her internal organs seemed to have shifted and the pain she suffered was like a fire burning within her body. Apparently she had suffered a serious internal injury. Huang Yueli slowly walked to the side of her door, but she didn't take a step out, only looking at her from afar. You can also listen on. You, cough. What on earth did you do? Murong Fei heard footsteps and when she raised her head, her eyes were filled with horror. Even in her dreams, she had not imagined that her full strength had not only not done anything to this 3rd-stage realm lass, but instead brought self-immolation to herself, causing her to be in the current half-dead state. Huang Yueli calmly smiled. Miss Murong certainly has a bad memory. Earlier I'd already reminded you to never make a move against an armament master on their turf. Have you forgotten about this already? Murong Fei suddenly recalled what she said earlier, but the astonishment beneath her eyes did not decrease. It increased, revealing an expression which seemed like she had seen a ghost. Impossible. This is just impossible. For a mechanism to be able to deflect a 6th-stage realm practitioner's attack, you will need to be at least a 6th-tier armament master before you can do it, but you're merely a newcomer who had obtained the 1st-tier armament master certification. You absolutely cannot do that. Murong Fei's eyes grew wide as she mumbled to herself. Huang Yueli shrugged. Up to your own imagination. Anyway, the truth is right in front of you, and if you insist on not believing, there's nothing I can do. Murong Fei seemed to be bewitched as she continued with her own crazy talk. No, impossible. Cough cough. If you really are able to deflect my attack, why didn't you do it right from the start? You didn't activate the mechanism but took the risk to be injured by me, taking my strike? Huang Yueli's brows rose as she looked downwards on the pale-faced Murong Fei who had fallen onto the ground. The reason is very simple, because your first strike's profound energy was just too little, probably not even 30% of your real ability. Even if I deflected your attack, it would probably not be able to injure you. The mechanism that I activated is not able to do anything to you, yet it will alarm you. Then I might as well wait for you to become angrier and become more vicious in your strikes before giving you a death blow. How about that? The feeling of being injured by your own profound energy, isn't that very special? The raging blood that was finally suppressed by Murong Fei had instantly gone to waste after she heard what Huang Yueli said and instantly spat out a big mouthful of blood. You, cough cough. She kept coughing and felt the pain in her chest seem to be exploding, as her brain was buzzing. She obviously had fallen into Huang Yueli's trap and tricked by her, so when she was immensely pleased with herself, the opponent had intentionally made her angry, just to lure her to unleash her full power. She thought Huang Yueli would be scared stiff from her full power, but in the end, she was being despised that her move earlier was too gentle and tried ways and means to make her increase her strike. And just as she thought that she was able to remove her love rival with her killer move, she had actually inflicted such a heavy injury upon herself. There was nothing which could make anyone grieve more than this. Murong Fei was too well protected in the sect and she had never been schemed against like this before, so she wasn't able to take it too well as her eyes rolled backwards and fainted. Huang Yueli gave a cold humph and ignoring her, she closed her door as she returned to her room. The minute she sat down on her bed and posed a cultivation posture and amidst the movement of her profound energy, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Actually, when she went against Murong Fei earlier, she had sustained an injury which wasn't light, but she merely had just not expressed it out. Now that Murong Fei had been settled, she finally had the chance to cure her own internal injury. However, just as she was coughing out blood, an anxious man's voice was heard from the door. "You're injured. You can also listen on." This voice sounded extremely familiar, and when Huang Yueli turned her head back, she gave an astonished expression. "Divine Dr. Liu. How come you're here?" A good-looking man standing by the door with a sunken expression was Liu Buyan, who had been missing for several months. Liu Buyan pushed open the door as he strode in. He was dressed in white and against the sunlight, he struck a graceful and elegant poise, with an unusual presence. He walked in front of Huang Yueli and without a single word, he pulled her left hand and his slender long fingers was placed on her wrist as he shut his eyes and felt her pulse. After a while, he released her hand. "Your internal injury is caused by a high-leveled practitioner's profound energy, but luckily it's not too serious and your arteries are not damaged. Take this pill and rest for the next couple of days. Do not make a move against anyone casually." As Liu Buyan was saying, he took a porcelain bottle out and removed a pill, passing it to Huang Yueli. However, Huang Yueli didn't take it. Liu Buyan frowned as he urged, "Quickly eat. Why are you in a daze? Don't you know that, if your internal injury is not cured in time, it will become more serious? Don't tell me you're afraid of bitterness." Huang Yueli was in fact stunned because she had never expected that at this kind of place and time, she was able to see Liu Buyan appear. The young lady's dainty face was filled with astonishment as her beautiful big eyes opened wide, her long lashes kept fluttering, looking extremely innocent and extremely attractive. Liu Buyan couldn't help but laughed. "What's the matter? Are you so surprised from seeing me?" Huang Yueli then recalled her senses as she asked puzzledly, "Divine Dr. Liu, it's really you. Why did you appear here?" Liu Buyan replied, "Take the medication first and I'll let you know later." Huang Yueli received the pill but didn't swallow it immediately. Instead she turned her head to look at him and asked, "This medication? Surely it's not poisonous, right?" Liu Buyan's mouth twitched as he was speechless. "If you suspect it contains poison, then don't eat it. What's the matter with you? The pills that I refine personally can easily be sold for 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones per pill. Now that I'm giving it to you, you're worried that it's poisonous?" Huang Yueli chuckled, I'm just asking only," saying that she raised her head and swallowed the pill. After eating the medication, she looked at Liu Buyan once again. Divine Dr. Liu, when I left your courtyard the other time, I went back to look for you the next day, but you've already gone out on a trip. I'd not expected that you actually came over to Celestial Light Academy. Right, why are you here for? And how did you know I'm staying here? Liu Buyan looked at her, her gaze became deep and gradually said, I happened to pass by Sky Cloud City and previously I heard you mentioned that you want to enroll for Celestial Light Academy in Sky Cloud City, so I just passed by to take a look at you. Saying that, he felt rather uneasy and added, that time you've been poisoned by the 7-character soul extinguishment skill and was in a hurry to leave. I'm worried that the poison in your body had not been purged properly, so since it's along the way, I dropped by to check on your situation. Ah, really? I'd not expected that you have medical ethics. I really can't tell at all. Huang Yueli laughed dryly. This reason was too far-fetched, and it wasn't the first day Huang Yueli got acquainted with him. Would she not know what medical ethics this #1 divine doctor in the continent had? He normally depended on his feelings to see patients and most had to pay him following by begging before he agreed to do a consultation. Would he specially come round to do a follow-up for her? How could such a good thing possibly happen? You can also listen on. But Huang Yueli didn't expose him. After all, from what she thought, a peerless expert like Liu Buyan must have his personal reasons for appearing here, and it wasn't something which she could question. It'd be better for her not to find out too much such secrets. Liu Buyan smiled as he said, You're ridiculing that I don't have any medical ethics. All right, those rumors in Soaring Heaven's continent aren't wrong. But whether I have medical ethics or not, it mainly depends on the person. For a beauty like you, I naturally would put in more effort. These words of his was already rather ambiguous. But as Huang Yueli had always ascertained that there was someone who he liked, so his words didn't touch her heart. She only felt that Liu Buyan was joking with her, teasing her only. So she gave an oblivious smile. All right, stop these sweet nothings to me already. Who doesn't know that young Master Liu, you know how to please a young lady most? But I'm not free to play these with you. Liu Buyan was totally speechless as he looked at her. An unspeakable, gloomy feeling stayed within his heart. This lass, although he indeed had the intention to play with her, but did she needed to be so calm? Ever since Mu Chengying had gone into closed-door seclusion for the past decade, he became the hottest handsome male in the entire Soaring Heavens continent and many young ladies were always by his side. He seldom met with such a situation where a lady treated her like air. Actually, even when Mu Chengying was around, Liu Buyan was still more popular because who didn't know that Mu Chengying liked Huang Yueli, the 9th-tier armament master, and she wasn't a good person to trifle with. Anyone with a bit of brains would not dare to provoke her. Moreover, Mu Chengying had never looked at any other woman other than her. Although the handsome male was good, but their lives were more important. Not long after Huang Yueli took the pill, the pain on her entire body suddenly disappeared completely. Not only that, a warm stream started to flow from her dantian, making her feel as though she was soaked in a sauna, feeling extremely comfortable. You really deserve to be the continent's #1 divine doctor. Your pill is indeed effective. Huang Yueli's eyes lit up as she beamed brightly. Thank you, divine Dr. Liu. Just a mere thanks on your mouth, what's the use of that? I've saved your life several times, right? Shouldn't you show me your gratitude? Liu Buyan's lips arched upwards, revealing a frivolous smile. After feeling despondent for a while, it incited new ideas into him. There were not many women who dared to treat him as nothing, except for Huang Yueli in her previous lifetime. There was only this young lass. He had to see if this young lass really didn't feel anything for him or was she just pretending. Oh please, why are you like this? Huang Yueli mumbled in displeasure. Last time you indeed saved my life, but hadn't we agreed upon it? I'll accompany you for 7 days and you help me to treat my injuries. That time the goods was already delivered and the bill had been settled and now you're trying to renege on it. Liu Buyan smiled. Earlier that matter has been settled, but, Today you've taken one of my unfettering spirit pill. Do you know that is a 7th grade medicinal pill and just one pill alone will not only instantly cure all the internal injuries, it also has the effect of increasing one's cultivation. Just one pill alone, in Emperor Sky City's auction, Without at least hundreds of thousands of upper-grade spirit stones, it's virtually impossible to get it. Huang Yueli stared at him. What do you mean? That pill is something that you stuffed into my hands and forced me to eat. It's not something that I asked you for. Liu Buyan shamelessly laughed. I'm indeed the one who gave it to you, but I didn't say I'm gifting it to you, eh? You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.